Good evening, everybody, and welcome. If you wouldn't mind taking your seat, if you're able, that would be super. We're going to get the evening going. My name is Colleen Brown. I'm the owner of Frontier Law, and I'm based here in Fort St. John. This evening, we're honored to host 4 of the 5 candidates for the upcoming Canadian federal election. And this federal all-candidates forum provides an excellent opportunity for the community to engage directly with those seeking to represent us in our federal legislature. Your presence here in the room, although a little bit skimpier than the provincial event that we held back in October, and via the online live stream, shows a commitment to understanding the issues that matter most to the people in this region. As we gather to discuss the future of our country and our region within it, we hope to be able to foster a spirit of open dialogue and mutual respect. This evening's conversations will give each of us the chance to hear diverse perspectives, I hope, ask important questions, and ensure that our voices are heard in this most important democratic process. We hope to make it a productive and insightful meeting. Curtis Whitford will be this evening's moderator. Born and raised in Fort St. John, he's been in the oil and gas industry for 34 plus years, and for the past 7-ish years, he's been the Northeast BC Health, Safety and Environmental Field Advisor for Tourmaline Oil Corporation in our region. Curtis is also the past president of the Fort St. John Petroleum Association, one of the organizations that's presenting this evening's forum. Before Curtis begins with the rules of engagement for us and the candidates, and before I invite you to rise for our national anthem, I'd like to take a moment and recognize and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 8 territory and on the traditional territory of the Daneza people. Now, if you're able, please rise with me for the singing of O Canada.
Oh, I wasn't expecting that, but thanks, Skylar. That was you, I bet. Okay. First of all, yes, my name's Curtis Whitford. I'm born and raised here in Fort St. John. Super excited to be here tonight. First of all, thank you for coming tonight. This is a huge deal for us. And on behalf of the Fort St. John Petroleum Association, we're really excited to be part of this. We've been in the community 60 plus years. This is, I think, an obligation of us that we're super proud to be part of. Rules of engagement. And here we go. Are you guys ready? Okay, the candidates will introduce themselves and will have 2 minutes to complete their introduction. Given the large number of candidates, we'll have time for 10 questions. 6 have been prepared in advance as a composite of the many questions received by email. And 4 will be asked by the floor by the audience members who are here tonight, that's you, who are randomly chosen here this evening. When asked a question, each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond. We'll be moving sequentially amongst the parties with each question as to who gets to respond first. The order will be decided with the very first question by the way of drawing numbers from a hat. Now, we drew cards. Now, whichever candidate draws the number 1 gets to go first or last. Bob, that's you, first or last. Okay, we'll get there. After all candidates have been given the opportunity to respond, each candidate will have the opportunity to provide a 1-minute rebuttal to each question, so if they so choose. For the questions from the floor, we'll have the time for 4 questions that will be randomly selected. The questionnaire will be given 1 minute to ask the question, and we will be monitoring this time. If need be, we'll remove or shut off the microphone. So this is where I need your help. Our goal here tonight is to provide a fair and equal opportunity for each of the candidates to respond to the questions, and we'll be respectful to the process and to the candidates that are willing to attend this forum. So before we get started, quick introductions. Mary, before you get up, this is Mary Forbes from the Green Party of Canada. This is Corey Grizz Longley from the New Democratic Party. David Watson from the People's Party of Canada. Bob Zimmer from the Conservative Party of Canada. I want to bring attention to the 5th table, and that's right to the left of Bob. Peter Jenga was invited by the Liberal Party, and he chose not to attend tonight. So, let's get back to these questions. Are we ready?
Sure. Yep.
So, once again, the guy that picked number 1 was you, Bob.
Yes.
You have first choice. You want to go first or last?
I'll go first. That's
Okay, thank you,
Yep.
Bob.
Thanks, Curtis.
Okay,
Ready to go?
I think so. Are you guys ready to do this? Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Okay, is that you, Ben? Okay, number 1, the general governance and leadership. If you were elected, what is your top priority for our riding, and how do you plan to work across the party lines to achieve results?
Sorry, just Curtis, are we introducing ourselves?
Oh,
Yeah, I
heck,
thought there was
Bob.
the intro first.
Yeah.
See, this is where I screwed up. Oh, sorry, messed up. Okay, let's do introductions. Thank you,
Getting
Bob.
right into it.
I got excited.
Okay.
Okay, let's do introduction. Mary, because of the Bob going first, you get to go first with introductions.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Mary.
I'm quite nervous. This is my very first time doing anything like this, so please bear with me. And I'd like to thank you for inviting me to be here on the traditional and unceded territory of the Danzé people, members of the Treaty 8 First Nation. Thank you, Brian and Colleen and Curtis, for making this event possible. I'm running for the Green Party because I feel it's the only party that would let me work for you. If elected to Parliament, the Green Party will never tell me what to say or how to represent you, and will support the decisions which would be informed by you. As your MP, collaboration is the name of the game. I don't care who gets the credit as long as the job gets done. Unlike some status quo situations where folks will fight against each other and then things don't move forward. I think we need to move past the first past the post and towards proportional representation in electoral. In any other party's promise, proportional rep has broken that promise. Provinces and leadership have kept first past the post election after election. Historically, the Green Party is questioned about how are you going to be able to afford all of these great ideas you have. And it's the only party that fully cost checks their platform with the Parliamentary Budget Office, and that full platform is being released tomorrow. I'm glad I didn't have to memorize it for tonight. I graduated from Simon Fraser University in 2001. My first job, I was employed by the RCMP at the Picton Investigation and Project Even-Handed as a forensic anthropologist. I was a search technician and part of the team that helped provide closure for families of some of northern BC's missing, murdered Indigenous women and girls, and their justice is very close to my heart. I am proud to raise my children and elevate my experiences in solidarity with the Secwepemc and Tsilhqot'in people in my hometown of Williams Lake, British Columbia. And despite Ottawa throwing a line between my riding and yours, I consider this entire region northeastern BC, and I am a daughter and a colonist on this land. I was a homeowner here in Fort St. John for 7 years while I worked as an archaeologist in the oil patch, and I love being on the land. My very favorite places with Indigenous representation were the really big old groves of poplars. They're so big you can't reach your arms around them. And there would be scars from cougars climbing them or bears rubbing on them, loud woodpeckers, babies, and squirrels scolding you. But the best part of those really big corpses of trees was they would block the satellite signal from my sat phone and no one would call me. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mary. Corey?
Thank you, and welcome everybody. Thank you for coming out to listen to what us as candidates have to present to you. I appreciate this opportunity and this job interview, because that's exactly what it is. It's a job interview. And I'd like you to get to know me a little bit better. I'm one hell of a worker. I work hard. I'm in the trades. I'm a plumber and I'm a gas fitter by trade. I know all about energy. That's what we do. That's what I do. I take it from the ground and I put it inside your house in your furnace to keep you warm in the wintertime, even though I'm from the NDP. Just so you know that up front. I'm a father. I have 3 beautiful children. They're fantastic. They are the world to me. And I have a beautiful wife. Her name is Debbie, and she teaches at South Peace Secondary School and does the drama program there. And their musical this year is 9 to 5. Buy your tickets now. It is going to be so much fun. It's going to be great. What else can I tell you about myself? As my career, you guys might recognize my voice because I was on 890 CJDC for probably 15 years. I also started off the rock and roll show here in Fort St. John on 101.5 The Bear. So if you can hear those sounds and you're thinking, why does he sound like the fellow that was in my bedroom? That would be why, because I would be waking you up for many, many years here in Fort St. John. My goals in riding and running in this riding are to provide an alternative. Let's be fair and let's be clear on this. I don't expect to win. I didn't expect to win last time because we have a machine in place for the last 50 years that puts a candidate in. That's what happens. You don't have to look any farther than we did in the last provincial election, where we saw 2 well-experienced, well-loved community members being removed from a party for no reason other than someone had a buddy. I want to give you guys a chance to have a change, to bring in some fresh ideas, to maybe take a chance. All we have to do is look at the successes in the riding to our west with Taylor. All we have to do is look at the fact that the NDP is the party that's looking out for you. We're the party that is comprised primarily of workers. There's not a frickin' CAO among any of us in that party, and we like it that way, because that means we don't lick boots, and that means we're beholden to no one but you, the voters. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. David.
Well, my life is relatively plain compared to these 2 over here. I haven't been involved in any big investigations or on any radio stations like that. I've been mainly in sales and business. I had a stint within the military reserves as well. And I've had a family, have a family of 4, not including my wife, who has supported me the whole time. What I like about going into politics is that it's there for everybody to use. Something many ask me is what kind of party the PPC is. A lot of people don't know about us. Well, we're a small C conservative party. We believe in beliefs and values as opposed to party politics. As a party, we want you to vote based on your values and your beliefs. I can't ask for more than that. If you vote for your values and beliefs, you're going to feel more engaged with the political process, and you're going to feel more happy with the outcomes, no matter what they are, whether they're what you wanted or whether they're not what you wanted. What we have to do is we have to look at things from a very plain, sensible approach. We have to look at things that put Canadians first. Common sense things that put Canadians first. It's always been our policies, and it's always will be a policy if I have anything to say with it. We look at things from a perspective that is similar to what most people out there, I feel, are and are like. And when we look at life in general, we are trying to make things better for everybody, not just for a select few. Our motto has always been common sense policies, as I said. The only way things are going to get better is if we all wake up and realize that we have to vote for the people who are most like us. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Bob.
Thanks, Curtis. I am Bob Zimmer, your Conservative candidate for Prince George, Peace River, Northern Rockies. And from day one, I started this job way back in 2011, wanting to make a difference in our riding and nationally, and I have. For everyone who wonders what happened to the Canada they knew and loved, hope and change are on the way. We need to get our country back on track, and we have a plan to do exactly that. I'm running to be your MP because I care about our country and I care about you. I've never seen Canadians struggle as much as I have now after 10 years of an out-of-control and corrupt Liberal government. Canadians cannot afford another lost Liberal decade. If I am re-elected and we form government, we will put Canada first for a change. Thanks for attending tonight, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, now we'll get started into questions. Okay, Bob, you chose one. You picked the right card. You're going to go first?
I guess so.
Okay. General governance and leadership. If you're elected, what is your top priority for our riding, and how do you plan to work across the party lines to achieve results? You have 2 minutes, Bob.
The number one priority for me, Curtis, is affordability and really jobs in the economy. This is a natural resource-based economy. We've just seen a local mill lost that's been around for years. And our oil and gas sector is still functioning. A lot of that, basically all the natural gas that goes to that project on the coastline goes to LNG Canada, that goes out to the world, comes from right here in northeastern BC. But that said, there's a lot more of it and a lot more opportunities there for us. And we've seen federal government in combination with a provincial government that really suppresses natural resource development and the jobs that come from that. That's my first priority is bring that economy back up to where it should be. And that deals with the economy and affordability. Affordability for most Canadians is the number one issue that they're going to go to the ballot box and vote for. And I think the best way we can fight that is a good economy, but another way is eliminating things like the carbon tax. Carbon tax has been incredibly damaging on local, especially northerners that have to heat their homes. We have Xander in Fort Nelson who sent me his heating bill for 1 month in Fort Nelson. This was even in the spring, it wasn't even that cold. $536 to heat his house up in Fort Nelson. $226 of that was carbon tax alone. And then the government wonders why people are struggling to afford to heat their homes or feed their families. Affordability is number one, along with the economy, Curtis, and I know with Leader Pierre Poilievre, we're going to get our economy going once again. We can be an energy powerhouse, as he said many times. We just need to get it done.
Thank you, Bob. So, Mary, you picked the number 2 card. Are you ready?
Yes.
Same question. You want me to repeat the question?
Yes.
Okay. If you were elected, what is your top priority for our riding, and how do you plan to work across the party lines to achieve results?
I'm going to take a card from Mr. Zimmer and say that, affordability is really the thing that we're all experiencing. And when that carbon tax was taken off my gas tank, I was grateful. Like, the cost that is on us is really difficult. It doesn't mean that taxation isn't a successful way to deter polluters, but maybe for polluters at the very top rungs, not everyday citizens that are just trying to get to work. I know I'm green and it's weird, right? Stay with me. So right now we're running a sort of 1960s style tax system. 20% of Canadians spend 2/3, or 20% of Canadians have 2/3 of all of the funds, like they're the richest. 33% of us Canadians make less than $40,000 a year. So the Green Party proposes that instead of not paying income tax at $15,000, that lack of income tax happens at a $40,000 mark. We're interested in creating universal early learning and childcare so every family can afford it, to expand paid leave for elder care, miscarriages, and other family needs, and to make trade schools, college, and university free so students can learn without going into debt. Really, I only have 6 seconds left?
No, you got a whole other minute. You can go.
You're messing
I've
with
been
the
watching
clock,
for you.
guys. I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, I gotta go.
No, I've been watching.
There you go.
All right, here I go again.
Yeah.
Ready?
Keep going, Mary.
So families are struggling to pay their bills while big corporations are hiding billions in profits. And our housing should not be played like the stock market. We should be paying about 30% of our regular income on housing. But places in Vancouver and Toronto, and I might say Fort St. John because it's hard to find a place to live here, sometimes as much as 30% of the housing market is tied up by investors. That's not the kind of place where an everyday family can find somewhere to live. I'd like to see a Canada that includes medicine, vision, mental, and dental care in their health care, and expand home and community care to make sure that those people who can't make it to the hospital have the care that they need in a safe place that they call home. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. David, you picked number 3 card. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Well, my main thing would be somewhat similar to Bob's and Mary's. Affordability is a main thing for everyone, except I would probably come at it a little bit different way. I'm looking at more at governmental reform and political reform, both of our voting systems and our governance systems within the government and outside the government. What I mean by that is that right now we have an overbloated bureaucratic state that we need to do something with, and we need to make it smaller, basically. We also have, outside the government, we have enormous amount of regulations and laws that have been placed over the last 15, 20 years especially, but they go back decades. And we need to change some of those regulations, and we need to make them more fair for everyone in this country, not just in this riding. And the last thing I would try and concentrate on is things like energy resources in this particular riding, because we have vast amount of energy and resources in this riding, and yet we really don't use it anywhere near its capacity. If we used it more towards its capacity, we would increase our own standards of living as well as the country's standards of living. It would also give us a very apropos way of moving into the next century of life for this country, because it's going to take us probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 30 years to actually get to the point where we can fully utilize our resources and our energy systems properly. That's about it.
That's perfect. Thank you, David. Corey, do you want me to repeat the question?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay, you bet.
Just for context.
If you are elected, what is your top priority for our riding, and how do you plan to work across party lines to achieve results?
Okay. I'm willing to work with anybody, anywhere, at any time if their idea is good. If it's going to benefit my riding, I want it here. That means provincial, that means federal, that means municipal. Just because I would be the MP does not mean I'm too big to go down there and talk to a mayor from a local community. Because if they need something, that means the people in my riding need it, and we're there to provide that for them. We talk about affordability, as Bob mentioned, that's probably up there, but I would nudge out sovereignty as probably one of the biggest concerns I've been hearing from people. When you have a best friend that doesn't stab you in the back, they stab you in the chest, and they use your family's ability to provide for your family with the tariffs. That Cheeto down south is definitely a threat to us, and we need to take them seriously. It's only a matter of time. I love Americans. They're great people. They're like Canadians, only a little lower than us. I mean, they're underneath us, right? They're our basement. They're smart people. Once they start realizing that this is not a tax, that they're paying for these tariffs, once they start figuring that out, I think we're going to see a change in regime down there, and it cannot come soon enough. Unfortunately, we have to be the example and bear the brunt of this ignorance. And Canadians are tough. We will get our elbows up, and we will get through this, and we're going to ensure, because it's not new, prices have gone up for a very long time in this country, and the NDP has always committed to lowering your grocery costs, putting a cap on exploitive companies like Loblaws, who tend to be conservative. So that is our vision. People say, how do you pay for it? How about we get people that are in the 1%, because there's not many of them in this room, to actually pay their fair share in taxes? How about we get those people to bring their damn money back from overseas, and we actually tax it? And they pay for the privilege of being in this infrastructure that we call Canada. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. So this is where it gets fun. We get a 1-minute rebuttal if you so choose to use it, and we're going to go in the same order. Bob, that's you.
I'm not going to ask or rebut anybody's comments here. I just think it's unfortunate that the Liberal candidate chose not to attend today to really talk about some of the damaging policies that they've, we call it the lost Liberal decade for a reason. Since 2016, we've lost 26 mills in the province. because we don't have a softwood lumber agreement and other things. So anyway, it's unfortunate the Liberal candidate chose to not show up tonight.
Mary,
Thank you.
you get a minute as well if you want to utilize it.
Well, I don't want to rebut anybody, but I had some ideas pop up while they were chatting. One of the things that I connected with when David was speaking about the costs, currently the Prime Minister's office runs a $3 million budget. I think $1 million's enough, or maybe even less than that. And when Grizz was talking about sovereignty, how can we talk about sovereignty with the United States when we're still not having nation-to-nation conversations with the sovereigns, the independent nations that are Indigenous people that live here in this very region? So once we have sovereign conversations with the people who live here, then we can have better sovereign conversations with the people who are chaos machines on the other side of the border. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. David,
No, thanks.
you got nothing? Okay. Corey?
Yeah, I'd like to kind of echo Bob's sentiment there. It would have been nice to, I thought it was really cool that we do have another Liberal candidate here, because I respect your voices. Whether you're Liberal, Conservative, Green, PPC, whoever you are, you should be heard. And it's nice that there is representation here. It would have been nice to meet him in person. Got a chance to meet him on the election meeting there that we had with Elections Canada. I got to argue with the lost decade, the lost Liberal decade comment from Bob. Bob was there. Bob was there for that whole decade. So it's not really lost. Bob knows what was going on there. And fundamentally, you've had two parties since Confederation in this country that have screwed you. There's only one party that hasn't screwed you yet. That is an official opposition party. All I'm saying is give us a chance. Give us a chance to give you more health care. Give us a chance to do right by you. Give us a chance and get to know us. Because like John Horgan said, everybody's NDP. They just don't know it yet.
Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Corey.
That's right. Can I go with that one? Or is this one of the ones where the audience gets to nail it? Because I
hold
got a
on.
good one for that.
So I appreciate the feedbacks from the crowd, but we are going to follow our format. Thank you. Let's go on.
Save it.
Well, hold
Bookmark
on,
it.
Corey.
Write it down.
Question number 2. You guys ready?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we're going to switch the orders up. Mary, you're up first now. Hold on.
Okay.
Economic development and climate change. Ready?
Yeah, I think I can do this.
Okay. Northeast British Columbia relies heavily on resource industries such as oil and gas, forestry and agriculture. How will you ensure that NEBC communities benefit from Canada's transition to cleaner energy without losing critical jobs, balancing environmental protections with economic development? Mary, you're up.
Thank you. It's like it was custom made for me. Thank you very much. So in all of these regions, whether it's down where I am in Williams Lake or up here and all the way up to the north in Fort Nelson or all the way down in Valemont, we're all working a resource-based economy, whether it's tourism or it's forestry or if it's mining or it's oil and gas. And the skills that we need to move into a clean economy are the exact same skills that we already have. It's surveyors, it's archaeologists, it's directional drilling, it's all of the skills we've already got. It's not even fancy, you have to learn a whole bunch of new things. It's just doable. And how do we know it's just doable? Look at the Peace Energy Co-op down in Dawson Creek. They've been doing this, they've got 600 members, they know how to do it, they've done all of their pre-investigations, and it's working for them. And they're making a great business plan, and they know it works up here. We've got some of the best wind resource. We've got giant hydro that maybe shouldn't be used to greenify LNG. And we've got incredible solar. So everything is already there. And then I'm like, what else do I want to say about this? Give me 1 second to look at my notes. 47 seconds.
Quick, flip it. You got this. You got this.
Have you ever been in front of a group of people, and as you're thinking about the next thing you want to say, and you know you've got something really great to say, your whole body goes cold and you get goosebumps? That's happening right now. So I really want to answer, but I've completely forgotten the question. And I'm going to pass it off to the next candidate and listen carefully to what they have to say and hopefully make my comeback and rebuttal. And back to you.
Thank you, Mary. David, you're up next. Do you want me to repeat the question, David?
Absolutely.
Okay. Northeast BC relies heavily on resource industries such as oil and gas and forestry and agriculture. How will you ensure Northeast BC communities benefit from Canada's transition to cleaner energy without losing critical jobs, Balancing environmental protections with economic development. You got 2 minutes, Dave.
First and foremost, I would want to bring together all the main stakeholders for all of those areas, whether it be pipelines, energy resources, or things like logging and other things, as well as farming and ranching. If we have all the people who are involved with those sort of things, then we have a better idea of what the actual picture is going to be in the long run. And when we're talking about something like sustainability over time, we are talking long run. If we don't do something that's going to mean something for a number of years, then there's hardly any worth in going into it if it's just going to come in and get changed right away in 6 months or a year or 2 years down the road. We need to get something in place that affects everybody today, but helps for the long term as well. By doing that, we protect ourselves from things like what we're experiencing right now with the U.S. We also protect ourselves from things that are happening within our own country regarding our own interprovincial trade and our own equalization systems and things like that. If we don't do something now with all the stakeholders involved, we don't know what's really going on. We only see a small picture of it. In order to see the big picture, we have to talk to a lot of people. Sometimes that takes a short period of time to get a good feel for it, and sometimes it takes a longer period of time, especially when the amount of stakeholders go up. But I'm willing to do that, and we need to do that in order to assure the sustainability for ourselves right into the future.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Corey, you want me to repeat
Yes,
the questions?
please, reread her. I'm old.
You bet. NEBC relies heavily on resource industries such as oil and gas, forestry, and agriculture. How will you ensure that NEBC communities benefit from Canada's transition to cleaner energy without losing critical jobs, balancing environmental protections with economic development?
Well, as I mentioned off the top in my introduction, I am a gas fitter. That's my job. I take, like Pierre called it, the electricity out of the air. I crunch it up and I put it in your furnace so you're nice and warm. One of the things that I would ensure is that if Canada needs a pipeline, we get a pipeline. That's what's going to happen. The NDP have been clear on this. We look after people first. We are an environmental party as well. That means that we carefully consider things before we decide right away to do it. Do we need an energy corridor? Perhaps, if we want to keep all the mining and things that BC have up. As we've seen before, the Conservatives built Site C, and that energy is almost already gone with programs and things that are going to be happening in our region. And that's the only reason I talk about the provincial stuff, because that's our region there. The federal government, we should build some highways to get access to the resources that we want to take out and make our lives better. And I think that we should do that with companies too. Companies that want to take advantage of these resources, they should be paying a bigger share. There's no reason that anybody in this riding should be out of pocket because a millionaire or a billionaire wants to make more money by taking what we have here in the north and shipping it down south. That share of the money should stay in the riding. And that's something I would like to see, and that's something I would work for and try to discuss with the other participants that are out there. The other thing that we would do to ensure our economic stability up here is the NDP has always been about strengthening your rights as workers. We've already seen, as Bob mentioned off the top there, layoffs all over Canada, especially right now in the auto industry. The NDP will strengthen our employment insurance program to ensure that families are not starving. We're going to ensure a UBI, so if something unfortunate happens, that you're covered and your family needs are not going to be something that overwhelm you, and you won't have to make hard choices or harder choices. The NDP want to look after you guys, and that's everybody in our riding.
Thank you, Corey.
Thanks.
Mary, we've got a minute if you want to rebuttal or
I
respond.
totally want that minute. Thank you.
Okay, let's do it.
Give her 20 of my seconds.
Oh, you're so generous.
You can have.
You forgot Bob.
Whoa,
Oh yeah, Bob. Yeah, jeepers.
Sorry, Bob.
Hey, Curtis.
I'll take his minutes too.
You see, I'm totally...
You know how I think.
Oh, I even had it written down here, Bob. You're the fourth one here, so bear with me, Bob. Oh, yeah. I had it here, too. So.
Just tell me when you're ready.
This is Colleen trying to make sure that I don't mess
You
it
can
up.
repeat the question.
Bob, I apologize. Let's repeat.
No, no worries. Yeah.
Northeast BC relies heavily on resource industries such as oil and gas, forestry, and agriculture. How will you ensure that any BC communities benefit from Canada's transition to cleaner energy without losing critical jobs, balancing environmental protections with economic development?
Yeah, thank you, Curtis. And as you know, the one thing that we already do, we're already doing it. So we have some of the best standards in the world producing oil and gas in northeastern BC already. And the one thing, so we don't need to reduce jobs in getting the new, emissions reducing product to the world that needs it. So we can actually reduce, we only produce 1.2% of world emissions in Canada. Yet we can get LNG to the countries that need and want it, like Germany, South Korea, Greece, and many others. We can reduce emissions up to 50% by doing that. And I think that's a great way, not to just look at ourselves and that little minuscule amount that we can reduce by just dealing with our own emissions, even though we're already doing that. But let's look at the bigger picture by getting natural gas to the world and reducing overall emissions around the world. So I think, again, we've got a great story. Whether it's oil and gas, a great example that I've used many times is Norway. And it's considered one of the most respected, environmentally supportive countries around the world, but they still drill for oil and gas. And they have the same standards we do. And my question always is they don't have any debt. They have a $1.8 trillion pension fund because they're rich in resources like Canada is. My question is, why isn't Canada doing the same thing? It's because we've had governments that have been ashamed of our natural resources. We're not ashamed of our natural resources in the Conservative Party and our leader, Pierre Poilievre, and we're going to develop those resources and bring that the energy and the economy and the jobs that come with it. Thanks, Curtis.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, Mary, now are you ready for your minute?
I guess.
Okay, thank you.
Only 20 seconds back.
Hi. Thank you. So Canada could be the leaders in clean energy. We have the sun, the wind, the power. It's all in abundance here. But our government keeps supporting only one of the major power industries. Instead, let's spread that around and subsidize some of the others. So for example, instead of subsidies going to only one area, we could subsidize wind, we could subsidize solar, and I know that hydro is a British Columbia idea, but what if we were able to have people put those solar panels on their house and be able to pay back into the grid more than just what their needs are that are met, and be able to make some more money off of our own sun on our own houses? This constant stop of the development of new clean energy is affecting us right in the pocketbook, and it's also affecting us because we're seeing these changes that are not benefiting us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. David.
For myself, I'm tired of subsidies. I'm tired of government bailouts. I'm tired of the government spending our money on things that they shouldn't be spending it on. It needs to rely more on what it's good at. At a federal level, we're supposed to make the overriding regulations for things. We're not supposed to be involved with programs that are going to cost the people, you and me, and everyone else, more and more and more. This is where taxes come from. And we have to stop. We have to change. If we don't stop this, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. You get what you pay for, and we're not paying much for it, but we're all paying dearly for it because it goes on, not just for you and me right now, but it's going to go on for your kids and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren and on until this gets fixed. If it ever gets fixed, if we don't do it soon.
Thank you, David. Corey, you got a minute.
Awesome, I'm going to use it. Here we go. I agree with Bob, which is settle down. It's going to happen every once in a while. I agree with Bob. Natural gas, our resources, the LNG, it's amazing that the BC NDP government was able to get that going and get that plant up and running in Kitimat so we can ship our materials out. It's fantastic that it's being run right now under a BC NDP government. Kudos to them. That's part of the across the aisle thing that I would like to encourage with whatever party, right? Because we do need to get that energy that's in the ground, if we can, out there in a reasonable and respectful to the environment manner. Bob's talking about the, two governments that were in power there that are impeding us. Well, again, two governments in this country. One of them's here, one of them's not. Look at the rest of us. We're ready to make a difference for you. Thanks.
Thank you, Corey. Okay, Bob, I'm not going to forget you this time.
Yeah.
You got a minute.
Thanks, Curtis. I think I appreciate what Grizz has to say, but he's missing one a very key component. The reason why we have a natural gas industry in this province is from a man that's sitting right over there named Richard Neufeld. That's the reason why liquefied natural gas got off the ground in the first place, because of the foresight of a former natural resource minister, energy minister for the province of British Columbia that got it done. We're finally seeing it realized. I take no credit from the NDP that we saw one project of 18 only developed.
Two.
There's one, well, the other one's not going yet though. So again, kudos to Richard and for all your efforts to really get the ball rolling and bring LNG home. Thank you.
Well, you had time left. I was waiting. No, it's okay.
I'm good.
Bob, thanks.
Yes.
Okay, let's go to the third question. Reconciliation and Indigenous relationships. How will you work with local Indigenous nations such as the Daniza to ensure their rights, languages, and land-based interests are respected in federal decision-making processes? David, you're up.
Well, as I said earlier, it's all about stakeholders, and everyone who has a part of the decision-making process, because they are a stakeholder, needs to be at the table. And that's the only way that we're going to get a response from those people. Problem is, many times, is we invite people to these tables, and we don't listen to them. We don't even pay attention to them, really. We pay lip service to them. And the only way we're going to get stuff done is if we stop paying lip service and actually start listening to them. The Indigenous people of this country, they deserve every single right that every single other person in this country have. And in some cases, some people believe more. And this is something that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis right now and into the future. These people are not going away, these Indigenous tribes, these nations, these sovereigns, they're not going away, but we're not going away either, so we have to deal with them. Best thing it would be to do is to get them to the table and find out actually what it is it's going to take to satisfy them and make sure that it is satisfactory for all the people of Canada. We're all important. That's it.
Thank you, David. Corey,
For me,
do you want me to repeat it, or are you good to go?
fire when ready. Gridley, throw me again.
How will you work with local Indigenous nations such as the Daniza to ensure their rights, languages, and land-based interests are respected in federal decision-making processes?
Well, the first thing I love is the land acknowledgements you guys did. Some people think it's performative. I don't. I think that what it does is it puts it top of mind, and it should be done every time we have large meetings like this, because let's face it, we're colonizers. We're here. I couldn't control that. It wasn't how I got here. My parents came here from Scotland. Thank God they did. I love it here. And I want to thank every day the folks that have encouraged us to stay and be neighbors and work in partnership. We have to do a better job of upholding the promises we made. We have 94 recommendations that are sitting there. I can't remember how many have been completed yet. It's not 94. I don't understand what the stall has been in that lost 10 Liberal years. Even the Conservatives have a spotty history on First Nations relationships. Our own candidate here has had some issues. Bob's voted against 8 bills respecting the rights and sovereignty of First Nations and Indigenous people. This is all in the House. You can read it in Hansard. Bob's voted against getting rid of the Indian Act. Bob voted against the motion of the House. And he's voted in favor of 2 bills that give the government more control over First Nations land. I'll let him speak to that. But what I would like to see is more of a respectful relationship using these instead of this. What we need to do is be true to the treaties that we signed. We need to honor them, and we need to ensure that these beautiful people, our neighbors, are people that we walk forward with together at the same time, at the same pace, taking advantage of the same opportunities to ensure that our country is strong, actually stronger than it's ever been. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Bob.
Thanks, Curtis. We support treaty rights and the process of reconciliation with local Indigenous communities. One really important moment that I remember was at INAN Committee, where we had Indigenous leaders come and talk to us, and a key part of reconciliation was economic reconciliation. They wanted it so much so that they wanted it actually recognized as part of the act, and the other parties voted that down. We were supportive of that. So economic reconciliation is a key part of reconciliation. Our leader, Pierre Poilievre, has worked with local First Nations leaders on the First Nations resource charge that seeds federal tax rooms, so communities will no longer need to send all the revenues to Ottawa than ask for it back. And I was proud to be there when those announcements were made with Pierre and our leaders in Vancouver. It will also make resource projects more attractive to First Nations, so they are more likely to go ahead. I'm committed to repealing Trudeau's radical anti-resource laws to quickly greenlight good projects so First Nations and all Canadians bring home more powerful paychecks, and that's our leader, Pierre Poilievre. We will work with First Nations and other Indigenous groups to ensure that they are partners in prosperity and the development of our natural resources. A Conservative government will support Indigenous loan guarantees as well by establishing the Canadian Indigenous Opportunities Corporation, led by Indigenous people, to offer loan guarantees for Indigenous communities. Thanks, Curtis.
Thank you, Bob. Mary, you got 2 minutes. Would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
How will you work with local Indigenous nations, such as the Daniza, to ensure their rights, languages, land-based interests are respected in federal decision-making processes?
By asking them what they want. They're the ones who should be at the table and making the decisions. They're a nation unto themselves, and we need to talk to them as another nation. They are sovereign, they are independent, and they are allowed to make their own destiny. And if they tell us what they want, then we need to make it happen. Just like if we, the populace, ask for better access to health care, more doctors. It's not always quick, it's not always successful. We know it needs to be done, and it needs to be addressed. I want to be a champion of truth and reconciliation. I want to see the 94 calls to action used not like sprinkles on a cupcake, but regularly. Go team. My mother was a federal health nurse in this region and worked with the Indigenous people here, preventing the spread of tuberculosis in the 1960s. And when I worked here as an archaeologist, many of those folks' children were coming out with me in the field, and I was really glad to make that connection with people who live here regularly. The rights of Indigenous people have been identified by the United Nations, and they need to be followed. There's a call to act for justice for the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. From the inquiry, these items each of them need to be addressed and acted upon, and it should be an Indigenous-led change about removing the Indian Act. It's not their act. They didn't ask for it. It was put upon them. It's been twisted and manipulated to make it work best for whoever's in power. It doesn't work for them, and they should be the ones that make the decision on how it changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Hear, hear.
So, David, you got a minute if you would like to rebuttal or respond to these.
No, I'm good with this one.
Okay, let's go down. Corey.
I just want to give you a quote here. The Conservative Party already has some serious problems with residential school denialism. I don't have to talk about that, but I could mention a name, Aaron Gunn. A lot of people have called for his resignation because he's a piece of crap, and he should not be running, as far as I'm concerned. That's my opinion. One of the things I don't like is that in 2008, Stephen Harper decided that he was going to give an apology for the government of Canada for how we've treated our Indigenous people. The same year, Mr. Zimmer's party leader came out and said that, hey, they don't need any more compensation. Instead, they're required to have a better work ethic. Those are his words. That's what he's saying to our neighbors. That's what this guy said to the people that the Conservatives claim they want to reconcile with and create an economic bridge. To me, that sounds an awful lot like the old style, trust me, let me come in there and harvest your logs and you can share in some money. That's not true reconciliation. What that is more
Corey?
exploitation and colonialism.
Corey, thank you. Bob, you're next. Minute.
Sure, thanks, Curtis. Yeah, I've met with countless Indigenous leaders in Ottawa with their leader. And one thing that they want to see is a way forward, whether it's leaders from the territories or local leaders from our particular area here in northeastern BC. Again, I talked about the economic reconciliation is something that we talk about often, and we see a way forward. And I've talked about even the policies that actually are Indigenous-led policies. The resource revenue charge is from an Indigenous leader in Kamloops named Manny Jules, and we're working together to see a lot of these things come to reality. So we're looking at a way forward, a positive way forward for Indigenous peoples. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Mary? Mary, you got a minute.
Thank you. My hometown, Williams Lake, is the home to the second longest running residential school in Canada, St. Joseph's Mission. In the investigation of finding the murdered children that were buried in these residential schools is heartbreaking, and that's happening to our neighbors. The residential school survivors are asking the federal government for support to create learning opportunities where people who live in this land who may not know about the children, who still need the opportunity for everyone to know about our past ills, because we can't move forward without knowing about what we've done wrong in the past, for funding to be able to create places where people can come and learn more about this past, because a large part of truth and reconciliation is truth, and this funding needs to be approved so that we can all learn from the past and move forward together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, we're moving on to question number 4. Housing and affordability. Corey, you're up first.
Of course
just
I am.
bear with me here. What is your plan to address the rising cost of living, housing, affordability, homelessness in both the urban and rural areas of Northeast BC? What will you do to ensure young people and families can afford to live in our community?
Okay, so we all know what the situation is here. If anybody's actually tried to find a place to rent or, God forbid, be able to afford to buy a home here, this is not a new situation. And of course, it has been created by those two governments that we've elected over the past Confederation. It's time for a change because we want to make it so that our young people can actually have a place to live. I don't want my kids living in my house as much as I love them. I don't want them living there until they're in their 40s or 50s, and that's happening. How are we expected to have a next generation that's self-reliant, have a line of credit or any equity, any of the things that we all wish for our kids without making a solid change? And the NDP has a plan for that, right? Families are doing everything right. I'm going to work for my 8 hours a day. I'm coming home. My pockets are way later than they used to be. So what we're going to do is we're going to make it easier to get a house. We're going to unlock a whole bunch of land, federal land. We're going to start building stuff on there. And we're going to do it fast, right? That's the big plan. The other thing is maybe you don't want to buy a house, or maybe you're not in the situation for it. One of the interesting things that's happening in this country, and most people don't know about it, is large corporations are buying up apartment blocks. They're buying up subdivisions. And what they're doing is they're controlling those. They're trying to manipulate the housing market to increase and inflate prices all over the place. The NDP says that's enough. No more. That's not going to happen. We're going to federally regulate that. We're going to ensure that families have a place to stay, because homes are for families and everyone should have one. With this policy too, I would hope that we're going to see a reduction in homeless rates, because if we build enough houses and we do it quick enough, all of our neighbors won't have to be spending the night sleeping outside. We can bring them inside and keep them warm and treat them like human beings. National rent control. A ban on fixed-term leases, rent evictions, and demo evictions. A ban on rent price fixing and landlord collusion, which happens an awful lot. And legal recognitions of tenant unions. If I have a building that has over 1,000 tenants in it, they should be able to organize.
Corey, thank you.
Thank you.
Bob, would you like me to repeat the question?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. What is your plan to address the rising cost of living, housing, affordability, and homelessness in both the urban and rural areas of Northeast BC? What will you do to ensure that young people and families can afford to live in our community?
Yeah, thanks, Curtis. And one thing that we heard, we were at the trade show this last weekend, and affordability is the #1 issue that people ask us about. And whether it's carbon tax and the effects of the carbon tax, or a young person being able to afford a house, whether their wages, it used to be what used to be a good job now just can't afford that mortgage payment. They can't get into a house if you're you know, in that 18 to 25-year-old price range. And in bigger cities, it's even older. You know, we have many stories about 45-year-olds that are still living in their parents' basement because they can't afford even a down payment. But some of our ideas are incentivizing against red tape. For every dollar of relief a municipality offers on development charges, we will reimburse 50% of the development costs up to a $50,000 max. GST free, which is a really big thing for a new home buyer, is no more GST on a new home buyer. Will save home buyers up to $65,000 on houses under $1.3 million. Combining the two policies will lower the cost of new homes by up to $115,000, which is very significant. But we also will cut income tax by 15% for those lower income earners, dropping the tax rate on the lowest income tax bracket from 15 to 12.5%, 5%, meaning the average Canadian worker working under $60,000 will save $900, and a couple will save $1,800 a year. So those are just a few things to get the ball rolling in a positive direction on affordability, specifically on housing. We addressed that issue ourselves. I was a carpenter before my dad taught me carpentry, so we built our own house, but not everybody can do that. And even some of the prices of some of the materials now make it very difficult to actually pull that off. So anyway, that's some of our plans, and we're going to get it done.
Thank you, Bob. Mary.
Thank you. The province has been working hard to address the housing shortage. Here in Fort St. John and in Prince George, there is constant reassessment with 6-month check-ins to make sure that the work's getting done and on schedule to meet the predicted requirements for homes in all of these areas where housing's in a crunch. Canadian Mental Health, the province, BC Builds, and many other partners are working together to make sure that the houses that we need are available to us. But we need to look at everyone who needs a house as well, that every child needs a place to live, and if that child is now 50 years old and lives a life of invisible disabilities or perhaps generational trauma, and if they choose to live on reserve or in remote and rural areas, these choices should not be a disadvantage. Our can-do skills and abilities provide us with the skills to grow our own food, supplement increasing grocery costs, working with the stewards of the land with their traditional skills and harvesting abilities done in season and sustainably will be frontline education for the places where we live. Farmers markets, local meat sellers, and availability of processors, like having regional abattoirs and traveling processing plants, keep Canadians fed, safe, warm, with healthy local food at home. Another way we could reduce those costs of living so that you could have the money to make that first down payment is to forgive student loan debt and make post-secondary education free. Current workers do not want a lifelong job of previous generations. They want flexibility, creativity, they want a job that fills their heart and their head, not just their bank account. A strong, intelligent population improves all outcomes from childhood success to senior succession. Sweden made their education system free, and as a result, they have a burgeoning aerospace industry because all those intelligent people just showed up and learned great stuff. The ivory tower needs its doors blown open, so we are not held hostage by exclusive ideologies who can afford the education.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
David.
Housing is very important, and affordability is very important. All these things are very important. Cutting taxes is very important. So we have to kind of decide what it is we actually want here. Do we want to build a bunch of slums for the future? Just stick people into them now and then move ahead that way? They've done this in other countries, the UK, even in the States. They end up being the tenements and the places where people congregate and a lot of the crime actually takes place. Or do we want to have nice places, decent little villages, something like Tumbler Ridge, that is put together and built in a strong manner that attracts people as opposed to making people not want to go there. We need to look at things like sustainability as well, things growing our own food. I myself have been doing this for years and years already. I've built greenhouses, multiple greenhouses. 6, I think, was the last time I counted. And I make a lot of raised gardens. We do a lot of our own vegetable growing. Not everybody has the time, not everybody has the space, not everybody has the ability, but everybody as groups, small groups, groups of 10, groups of 20, they can do these sorts of things. There's no reason why we couldn't have huge city size, not literally in size, but able to feed almost cities in greenhouses. In Alberta, they have a place called Redcliffe, where they have 8 greenhouses, and they supply most of Medicine Hat, over 25,000 people, just from 8 greenhouses. They also sell some of that food to other places. These are the types of things that we have to look at. And we have to look at sustainability for the long term again. We can't be rushing in and doing things just simple and willy-nilly.
Thank you, David. Follow-up. Follow-up to that question, Corey. You got a minute?
Oh, okay. Just want to remind everybody, there is no carbon tax anymore. Carbon tax, Carney cut it, right? So that's gone. It's an interesting talking point when it was there. The question I would have for Bob when he's talking about his buddy paying $536 for his fuel, what was his rebate? We just want to ask that one, because I guarantee you his rebate was significantly more than 536. So that's one thing. Tumbler Ridge is a company town that was built to support coal miners that were in that town, right? So that's what was there. Some of the houses are crappy. I've done service work in them. I don't think that's the idea. I think what we want to be seeing is 3 million new houses built. That's the NDP's promise to you. We're going to ban foreign buyers that drive the prices up. We're going to ban loopholes so that foreign owners can come in here and control or try to control what families need, which are houses, right? Because homes should be for families, not for billionaires and for speculators, which it has been for years and years and years. I would also speak to the fact that
Corey?
we can talk about...
Your minute's up.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I got to stop you, and that's
No, that's
make
fair.
it equally fair.
I got all excited and didn't...
No, I appreciate that, Corey.
Yep.
Bob?
Yeah,
You
well,
got a
I'm
minute.
glad Corey brought up carbon tax, because
Doesn't exist.
sorry, it's my time, Corey.
Yep.
So actually it was the NDP in cooperation with the federal Liberal government that brought in the carbon tax. And it was only after Pierre Poilievre, us Conservatives hammered away, sorry, it's my time, Corey.
Use it.
Hammered away relentlessly year after year, day after day after day. They finally, because it was an election issue and they were about to lose the election over carbon tax, Carney actually decided to remove it. But did he really remove it? It's really just a pause. So he's put a pause on the consumer carbon tax, he says. For how long that will last, probably the first couple of days, if they do win government, it'll be back. And he's actually already said that. He said, we're going to move from a consumer carbon tax to an industrial emitter carbon tax, which means like companies like Petro-Canada and all the big producers of energy in our country are now going to be putting a carbon tax on what they sell us, and that's called gasoline.
Bob?
Carbon tax is
Bob?
not gone yet.
Bob,
So.
I got to stop you. Your minute's up. Mary, you got a minute.
Zowie, some couple firecrackers up here. I'd like to see a national electrical power grid to connect all of Canada and perhaps look towards greener opportunities on our future instead of looking back to the things that have already been done and pointing fingers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. David, you got a minute.
I would just like to say that carbon tax is not gone. It's been paused, as Bob says, and there's every intention by the Liberal government, should they get back in, to recreate it and probably make it a lot worse. And we don't even know how much worse it's going to be because they don't want to talk about it at all at this point in time.
Okay, thank you, David. We're already at question number 5. You guys ready? Democracy and transparency. This should be fun. Do you believe in Parliament adequately represents rural and northern voices? And do you support electoral reform or changes how MPs are elected? Bob, you're up.
Good question. Because there's been many ways that different democracies function around the world. The current, or the former Prime Minister Trudeau promised electoral change in the way us as members of Parliament were elected. I do not support a change to the first past the post system, and this is why. Once we get into the system that has been proposed by the Liberals and other parties, the person doesn't go through a rigorous nomination process like I went through, a 9-month rigorous nomination process where we have local people electing who that representative is going to be. The person then is picked off of party lists. So it's all based on how many people get the most votes and they get picked off of party lists. That's the way it works. So I'm not supportive of a change to that. I think Churchill said about democracy in general, democracy is terrible except for all the others, right? There's still, democracy has its challenges and it's never perfect in our situation in Canada. But as democracies go, we have a pretty good one. I get a lot of comments about the unfairness between urban and the rural divide. I had a conversation with several people just at the trade show, and the way that it's set up is every riding has about 110,000 people. We have 116,000, so it's pretty close to the average. We have some ridings that are lower, like the territories are 30,000 people, 30,000 per territory per 1 MP. But we also have places in urban Canada where you might have 200,000 people for one particular member of Parliament. So again, it's not perfect. They try and readjust it every 10 years to these population changes, but I don't support a change to our electoral system. Again, it's the best that we have, and it's worked so far fairly well. So, you know, we have our issues, but the current system, I would support that it continues. I will say this, I don't have any more time. Thank you. Maybe in the rebuttal.
Thank you, Bob. Mary, you're up. You got 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
So the Green Party definitely wants to see electoral reform. So why is it that the Bloc gets more seats in Parliament, but they get less votes than the Greens across Canada? So if we imagine that all of these water bottles that are up on the stage are the seats, and we say that there's 8 of them up here, and we say 4 of them get 3/4 full with red marbles. Stay with me, I know math is hard, it's tough for me too. But the last, hang on, 8, 5. 5 are filled up with red marbles, and then the remainder are all filled with green. In total, there's more green votes, there's more green marbles. But the red, because there was more of them to begin, more of them voted for that got the first place, first past the post, are the ones that end up being the leader. What about the person that everybody else voted for? So what are they doing in Alaska, for example? So they got sick of Sarah Palin, and they decided to do proportional representation, where you vote for the person that you want, and the person who gets the most votes, even if they're the second choice, is the person who gets to be your representative. In the last elections here in Canada, since the beginning of elections, except in one, Ontario has decided who our leader is going to be. When you vote, you are deciding who you want to represent you at Ottawa. You are not deciding who the leader is going to be. That's going to be decided by Ontario because of first past the post. So I don't think that that's fair to us. I don't want people to feel like if they vote for a party that's not one of the main ones, that they're throwing their vote away. I want you to be able to vote with your heart and vote for the person that you feel is going to best represent you and the experiences that you want in this region. I think it's unfair, and I'd like to have those green marbles be represented. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. David, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I think I'm okay with it.
Okay.
I agree with Mary more than I agree with Bob. We need to have political reform. We need to have governmental reform. Reform is so important for this country. Most people don't even realize it. And it's not just the MPs. It's also the Senate. It's also the judiciary. We have enormous problems here. Our political systems have been completely captured by entities that most of us have no idea who even they are. This is not a conspiracy. These are facts. Everyone knows that these are the truths happening. If you just look at our Senate, for one thing, we have foreign nationals in our Senate that, in my opinion, have no business being there whatsoever. We have Senate where we have a small province like New Brunswick or Nova Scotia who has 10 senators with a smaller landmass and smaller population than BC or any of the prairie provinces who only get 6 senators. Not only that, but a lifetime representation, or they changed it actually, and it's now they say 75, but still, that's basically a lifetime representation for most people. We need to change that as well. The judiciary, they are all appointed by whichever party is in power at any one particular time, or any ones that come up for renewal during that time anyways. And the most substantial portion of all the judges in office right now have been appointed by the Liberals, which is wrong again. And then we get down to the MPs. We need to have term limits for MPs. There's no reason why an MP should even be in government for 10, 14, 20 years. None at all. If they can't accomplish their goals right off in the first 4 to 6 years, then they don't need to have it. And in the odd case where maybe they have some justifiable reasons, maybe we could make an exception the odd
David?
time and go to 3 terms.
Thank you, David.
Yes.
Corey,
Repeat the question, please.
do you believe Parliament adequately represents rural and northern voices? Do you support electoral reform or changes to MPs, to how MPs are elected?
Brother, do I. Let me tell you, 50 years of conservative voting in this riding. If we were to go back and look at some of those results back in the day when Jay Hill was running, maybe even Bob on some of them, and we actually put it through the filter of proportional representation, I guarantee you it wouldn't be the same history. I guarantee you more voices would be heard, and we would have had some fresh ideas and some new directions to go in with those results. We talk about freedom. Let's talk about 4-question Pierre. This guy doesn't want to answer any questions. He doesn't travel with the media, breaking tradition with Canadian voters that's been since Confederation. J.A. MacDonald used to give him drinks when he would do speeches. Our guy running for the Prime Minister right now doesn't even want to travel with an unwashed reporter, and his drones will pull the microphones away from them if he doesn't like the question. We need reform here. We need electoral reform. Here's a question too for Bob. Maybe you can answer it in the rebuttal. I'm not trying to be mean here, but I'm wondering, when you guys do your leadership debates, do you use first past the post? I don't believe you do. I think that you use the rank voting, which I'm pretty sure most of the parties do. Why would a party do that internally and give you guys the leftovers with first past the post? It's because the established parties get back in over and over and over again. You only have to look at the numbers in Ontario. You look at a Ford government, 20%. That's not 100%, that's 20%. And he got in. And yeah, some of our neighbors were lazy and they didn't go out and vote. That's democracy. But let's make it a fair democracy. 1 vote for each person. Let's make it count. Because I guarantee you, that's how you will start to see changes. All right? So that's where I am on that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. You got a 1-minute response, Bob.
Sure. In answer to the question, there actually is 1 person for every vote. That's one reason that even like folks up here, I've heard so many say, Bob, you've got it made, or once it's passed, Ontario, it doesn't matter what we do out here. When we formed majority government in 2011, we didn't know that we were in majority until the BC votes came on stream. BC mattered, whether that was a majority government or it wasn't. I just wanted to talk about some good things about our democracy, and that's the paper ballot. I get asked questions about whether we have a balloting system or an electronic system. Federally, we don't. Every person, every voter in this room has to fill out a paper ballot, and that ballot, once cast, gets counted by a human being, and it gets scrutinized too. All members of every party can have a scrutineer in that room watching the ballot count to make sure that there's a fair count in order. So there's problems with our democracy, fair enough. We had the popular vote last election, but we still lost the election. But we still support the current process, It's still the better of the worst, you could say. But the Senate, I would say, I used to be more skeptical of the Senate, but our Senator Neufeld, you just have to sit on enough planes with Senator. You see how hard of a worker he was. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Mary, you got a minute.
I'm good. These guys are saying some great stuff, and I enjoyed what they had to say, and I'm good.
Fair enough.
Don't need a rebuttal. Thanks.
Let's move on down to David then. David, you got a minute to rebut.
I've said what I need to say about this
Okay,
topic.
perfect. Corey, anything?
Well, again, I think Bob's being disingenuous because Bob has an advantage of being the incumbent too. That's just how democracy works. I would suggest, just kind of an exercise, maybe when you go home, take a look at some of the European countries and how they do stuff. Learn something new. Take a look at some of those democracies that do multiple runoff votes. They look at, and I didn't understand if you guys actually do a first past vote for your leadership group or not. I didn't quite get that. But I know that most of the parties don't. And the reason why is you get screwed. Your vote sometimes doesn't matter as much as another person's vote matters. One thing to remember, land doesn't vote. People vote. So let's make sure that we count it properly and that everybody gets a say in our democracy. Everybody should be able to play.
Thank you, Corey. Okay, moving on to our last of the prepared questions, sovereignty. What safeguards will you advocate for to protect Canadian sovereignty, bolster national defense, and safeguard Northeast BC industries, for example, lumber, energy exports, from an unpredictable shifts in the U.S. policy? Corey, you're up first.
Oh, dude,
glad it's
all
not
right.
me.
There you go. Okay, so here we go. We got 2 minutes on this one. I did not know that you served, David, as a reservist. I also served. I was in the military. I was a reservist at the HMCS Unicorn in Saskatoon. My trade was going to be diesel mechanic. I actually signed up for the regular armed forces in Canada. Sovereignty matters to me. I have friends, I have family. My grandfather was a ball turret gunner in World War II. This stuff matters, and we're being threatened by people that we never, ever expected. How do we protect ourselves from that? Well, what we do is we make new relationships. We learn from it. Everybody's been burnt in a relationship. Somebody you thought was your buddy is doing something naughty or whatever. What do? Well, you heal from that, maybe trust a little less, but you move on. We're part of a cool thing that a lot of people seem to forget. We're part of the Commonwealth. We're part of the British Empire. We could be forging stronger relationships with our European friends. We could be losing some of that American obsessiveness that we seem to have in this country. I think it was put best that we're in bed with an elephant, and when that elephant moves, we have to be nimble. We have to move around, make sure that we're not getting squished or stomped on. So I think that's how I would handle it. In terms of resource protection, that kind of stuff, that just gets into a little bit of the... I believe in people, not property. I believe in our ability to look after each other and protect each other. And what I would like to see is the Canadian Armed Forces receive the tools they need to do the jobs that we give them. I don't think that any Canadian soldier should have to worry about whether his helmet's going to stop a bullet. I don't think that we should be waiting to see whether or not our friends who are actually fighting a war for us right now in Ukraine have the protections and security that they need. Canada should be supporting Ukraine rather than some things we've heard from some of the bigger parties. And I'll just say Slava Ukraine.
Thank you, Corey. Bob, you're up. Sovereignty. Do you want me to repeat the question?
Sure.
What safeguards will you advocate for to protect Canadian sovereignty, bolster national defense, and safeguard Northeast BC industries, for example, lumber and energy exports, from an unpredictable shifts in the U.S. policy?
Thanks. Yeah, well, thanks for the question, Curtis, and whoever gave it. One of my files as Shadow Minister has been Shadow Minister for Northern Affairs and Arctic Sovereignty. So I've been working on the Arctic Sovereignty file for a long time now. And I've seen firsthand our vulnerabilities, whether it's in Nunavik, on our north coast, whether it's in Iqaluit, for what we've seen is increased incursions with the Chinese and the Russians. We've seen that in previous years, but what we've seen recently is where the Chinese and the Russians are working together, and they're starting to test our defenses. We've seen that the spy balloon that came through the Canadian territory as well, and we were ill-equipped to respond to just an air balloon. So we absolutely support, the government has come out and said they're going to modernize NORAD. And so I've done many videos, been up to the north to see this. The government said they're spending $38.6 billion on a NORAD modernization. We did an order paper question asking how much they actually spent. So far, they've only spent $70 million in the last 2 years. This is at a time of urgency. They've only spent $70 million to modernize NORAD, and $40 million of that has been to increase administrative capacity or build bureaucracy. They're not getting it done despite what the ministers have said. This has been an ongoing issue, and it's a big problem. Our response to that is we do need to shore up our military and defend our borders, and our leader, Pierre Poilievre, has said he's committed to that, and we're going to get it done. But also, when you talk about our vulnerabilities here, one of the biggest vulnerabilities is the lack of a softwood lumber agreement, and this is to deal with trade with the Americans. Within 80 days of us forming government, we had a softwood lumber agreement signed, sealed, and delivered. This particular Liberal government has been in power for 10 years and still no softwood lumber agreement, and this is one of the reasons why we've lost 26 mills since 2016.
Thank you, Bob. Mary, are you ready for this one? You want me to repeat it?
Yes, please.
Okay. What safeguards will you advocate for to protect Canadian sovereignty, bolster national defense, and safeguard Northeast BC industries, for example, lumber and energy exports, from an unpredictable shifts in the U.S. policy?
Thank you. The Green Party's been really clear. I have in front of me this long sheet of paper that has 38 plans to respond, and I've picked out a few of my favorites. One of them specifically is to establish a federal strategic reserve of raw resources, including oil and gas, aluminum, steel, rare earth, potash, and other key resources, and safeguard those jobs that go with them, retaining our critical industrial capacity and support key federal and provincial housing strategies, necessary raw materials needed to protect Canada, and the energy infrastructure and investments that go with it. That one sounds pretty good. There's many things the United States are looking for. For example, water, land, raw materials, we were just talking about, rare earth minerals, and the growing impacts of climate change will further make it more difficult for the United States to source these materials. If anybody thinks that countries don't invade countries anymore, you haven't been watching the news, and they're definitely looking at us. So 80 years after we defeated it, fascism is once more on the rise. There is no sugarcoating it. This calls on a time for us to mobilize, be ready to fight and endure some sacrifices. We have battled fascism before and we won. And now that it pokes its head out of the dustbin of history, we're going to kick it back into the grave where it belongs. Thank you. Over 45,000 Canadians died for our freedom, democracy and justice while fighting during World War II. They did so in alliance with a community of nations united in the resolve to defeat this fascism. They died protecting our lands, our families, our values, and our way of life. And every day since, millions of us have honored their memory by doing our utmost to live up to the best version of ourselves and improve our country for ourselves and for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. David.
Please reread.
Yeah, you bet. What safeguards will you advocate for to protect Canadian sovereignty, bolster national defense, and safeguard Northeast BC industries, for example, lumber and energy exports, from an unpredictable shifts in the U.S. policy?
Well, the same thing that we should have been doing for decades. We should have been preparing for this kind of inevitability for many, many years. Everyone in this room who's old enough to remember even into the 70s knows that this has not been something that has just crept up on us overnight. This has been happening for many, many years, many, many governments. The only way we can protect ourselves at this point in time is to make lots of changes very quickly. You mentioned about the military. Yes, I was in the reserves. My son is in the Reg Forces right now. He's been in for 18 years. And, you know, he's had multiple tours of duty. And I know from him and I know from others that are in the military, friends, our equipment is poor is a nice way to say it. Mm-hmm. It's not good in any shape, way, or form. And I'm talking any of the equipment they have. We have virtually nothing for heavy artillery or heavy equipment. And they're trying to spend a bunch of money on some F-35 jets that, you know, we may never even see any more than 5 or 6 of them at most. And that's only because we're going to pay a heavy penalty if we cancel the contract. No, but we do need to do a lot, and we need to increase our military inland, on Canadian soil. quite drastically, quite quickly. If we did that, we could use those military personnel for disaster relief within our own country to help bolster certain things that happen in different areas at different times. To help protect our industry and our resources in this particular area, we need to do the same sort of thing that I mentioned earlier. We need to get the stakeholders together and have them come up with a plan that we can use to help bolster those resources and lumber.
Thank you, David. In regards to a follow-up and a rebuttal, Corey, you're up. You got a minute.
Absolutely. I don't have much to rebut. I mean, I would like to encourage you guys to look at our situation. I agree with what most people have said. I really want to steal your stockpile idea. Maybe I'll do that like the Liberals stole our $10 a day daycare one. I'll just kind of sloop that over here. This is an opportunity. We are facing adversity. We're facing an uncertain future in the world stage. When your best friend stabs you and you're not expecting it, you have to respond. This is a chance for us to have Canadian innovation once more. Once upon a time, there was a conservative government that canceled the most advanced aerospace fighter in the world, the Avro Arrow. What we need to be doing right now is we need to be looking for opportunities to change what weapons we're using, to look to the future, to train some people that can fly these cool space machines and ensure that we never ever let ourselves be in the position where some criminal down in the States can knuckle us under. And that's not going to happen, so elbows up.
Thank you, Corey. Bob, you got a minute?
Sure. Yeah, I'll just follow up with, I followed Mary Ying, and she was the Minister of International Trade. Originally, Trudeau had made the promise they were going to get us off a lumber agreement. Obama showed up in Ottawa. We were all waiting for this agreement to be signed, and day after day, it never happened, and they flew away. And then really wasn't a topic that she even talked to her American counterparts over for the next 6 years. And that's why we're in the predicament that we're in. But some of the things that we're going to do, we're going to repeal the No New Pipelines Law C-69 and the tanker ban. We're going to grant decisions on major projects within 6 months. We're going to scrap the energy cap. We're going to axe the industrial carbon tax, and we're going to give Indigenous loan guarantees so they can be equity partners in energy projects. And very significantly, Pierre Poilievre will create a Canada First national energy corridor to fast-track approvals for critical infrastructure across Canada and a pre-approved transport corridor entirely within Canada. Thanks.
Thank you, Bob. Mary, are you ready? You got a minute?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Thank you. Another point from the 38. So the Green Party proposes creating a common diplomatic and economic front, an economic NATO of sorts, you could call it, with other like-minded democracies such as the EU, the UK, Japan, Australia, South Korea, New Zealand, Norway, Mexico, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, South America, and other nations to establish a red line and put the U.S. administration and key U.S. economic actors on notice about joint retaliatory economic measures against the U.S. to any further encroachments on the sovereignty of any member of this economic bloc. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. David, you got a minute.
I don't believe in turning anybody into a criminal, as the NDP and it seems the Greens are trying to say. I don't believe he's a criminal. I don't believe the U.S. is a big, huge criminal. They're trying to do what they feel is right for their country at this point in time, and I wish we would have done it a lot sooner for ourselves. We need to look at things that are good for us today, but also good for us in the future. And if we go around joining forces with these world governing organizations, which there are far more and far too many already, we're just going to get ourselves in a lot more trouble than we're already in.
Thank you, David. Well, this is where you guys get involved. Let's have some fun. We have time for 4 questions. We're going to work both sides. We're going to actually start on this side of the building, and then we're going to work on that side of the building, and we're going to allow them the same response time. That's 2 minutes with a 1-minute rebuttal. So we're going to work this side. We're going to work that side. Who would like to ask a question to all of the candidates here tonight? Derek has got the mic. You got 1 minute to ask your question. And Ben, do we have the ability to put that up on the big screen, that 1 minute?
My question is this. Although the Online Harms Act, Bill C-63, did not become law, it is possible that a similar bill regulating online speech may be reintroduced during the next Parliament. Will your party commit to upholding the right to free speech in Canada by refusing to introduce or support similar legislation censoring Canadians?
Bob, you're up.
Yeah, good question, Maya. We opposed the censorship efforts of the past Liberal government wholeheartedly. We voted against both bills, C-18 and C-11. I saw firsthand at the efforts that even Big Tech was trying to censor Canadians as a former chair of the Access to Information, Privacy and Ethics Committee. We saw what this Liberal government did with the Emergencies Act. In Ottawa, shamefully, what Canadians were just protesting and should have the freedom to protest peacefully to do. They have the right to do that. And what the federal government did and the Prime Minister did was not good. And he's trying to legislate it and make the CRTC basically an entity that, the way it's set up right now, maybe I'll just be a bit more frank, is the Prime Minister going to decide if one particular word or a particular sentence is offensive to himself, and he can tell the CRTC, I don't like that language, and he can strip it off of social media platforms by just talking to the CRTC and demanding that they do that. This isn't what I think many of our family members that fought and died for in this country for freedom. They certainly didn't fight to be censored by their government in Canada. So no, I would not support any type of censorship measures, Maya, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Mary, are you okay to answer this? You got 2 minutes.
Thank you. It's one of those great things about Canadians is the ability to be democratic and say what we have to say and share it in public platforms. And I think censorship is something that we need to be really careful with. I feel like the cancel culture that we're existing in this world right now, where we'll swing from one side to another, and perhaps if you're dealing with an older person who might say something that isn't exactly the way you want to hear it, doesn't discount them as having a really valid point. But we need to move them forward with us in a really gentle way and still hear what they have to say, even if I might not disagree with what David says sometimes. I don't think that there should be a place for the government to tell us what we should be able to say and how we should be able to say it. There should be a free place for all Canadians to be able to express ourselves and be heard no matter who we are. And that includes children in care, prisoners, folks with disabilities and invisible disabilities, folks that are not necessarily heard, and of course, Indigenous voices. So I'd like to hear all of the voices, not just the ones that want to be heard or have the money to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. David?
Yes, we would oppose and actively work against any sort of legislation that limits free speech. In fact, our own proposals put us forward, and we want to narrow the focus of the laws that are in place already and reduce their those to actually threats of violence as opposed to just merely words or thoughts from people. Free speech is an important thing, and it's integral to any society, but it's especially integral to a democratic society like ours, where we believe that everyone should have a right to say things, and without saying those things, they're never going to be heard sometimes.
Thank you, David. Corey?
Okay, here we go. Donald Trump is a convicted criminal. He's also a sex offender. That's what I was talking about. There you go. Now you know. Free speech does not eliminate personal responsibility. You guys seem to think that you don't have free speech. Of course you do. You have free speech all you want. You guys can have people go to Ottawa, perhaps, and protest and honk horns and sit in hot tubs and serve up donuts. You can do all of that. but you have to take responsibility for your actions, and you have to take responsibility for what you say. One of the candidates up here, myself, I've had people veil threaten me that they're going to attack me. They've posted pictures of my family online. Ridiculous, outrageous. They should be held accountable. There should be rules for that. You know what? You say whatever you want, but you're going to have to pay for it, and you're going to have to take responsibility for that. That's part of being Canadian, is being responsible, and that'll stop the idiots from just verbal diarrhea. When you have to start to think that there's going to be consequences to what you say, that someone is going to fact check you to ensure what you're saying is actually true, this is what we need, and this is what we have in the country. The guys that are complaining about it are the ones that like to skirt the issues. They like to fudge it a little bit. Well, I didn't really mean that. We weren't inciting violence. Well, of course you were. We saw it. It was there in front of everybody. And so when you start fudging it and you start worrying about, oh, we don't have free speech, you do. You just have to be held accountable for what it is. You want to talk about free speech and responsibility? Let's talk about Pierre Poilievre. 4-question Jeff. This guy will only take 4 questions from chosen media at a given point. He's too scared to travel with media from anywhere else other than maybe Brian Lilly, but that's because Brian hangs out with some conservative chicks, I heard. But there it is. Check it out.
Thank you, Corey. So we got a 1-minute response or rebuttal. Bob, you're up.
Yeah, I guess I would just go back to Maya's question about really relates to the Online Harms Act and censorship. So we support free speech, and I guess maybe I'll go back to an example when I was chair of the ethics committee. I coined the term the digital public square, and that public square should be free to voice what you want to voice on those platforms without threat of being censored and suppressed. Now, certainly some of the language that is given there and put on some of these social media platforms, they've addressed and I guess they manage that language, but when entire political parties and political movements are censored and throttled down, in essence, only so many viewers are going to see those posts as opposed to other political movements that are not throttled down. To me, that's wrong. We need to preserve that public square for what it is. Keep the bullies away from suppressing that free speech that's within that public square, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Bob. Mary.
Something Grizz said just resonated with me, talking about his family being threatened as a candidate. I'd like to recognize all the candidates that are up here today, how truly brave it is for them to come up and be a part of this process. And we received an email as candidates from CSIS and the RCMP warning us about the increased threat level to us as individual candidates. As a single female candidate cruising around in my car, sometimes sleeping in it, and visiting with people and making new friends, I was warned off the campaign by other candidates, nobody here, saying that, you really should have a safety plan in place. Well, I think you're my safety plan. The people who live here, we are the front line of being the difference between love and hate, and the Green Party is only to eliminate hate. Let's work on loving each other better. Thank you.
Yeah, here, here.
Thank you, Mary. David.
I would just say, yes, we do need to take care of each and every one of us. We do need to be responsible for what we say. We do need to be responsible for what we do. But this is life. This isn't just new to us. It's always been this way. For our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, this is what life has always been. And we need to proceed with life instead of trying to always cast others in a bad light.
Thank you, David. Corey.
I think her name was Angelou. You do the best you can with what you know. When you know better, you do better. You can say that we've existed like this for a long time. So what? Let's move forward. Let's change. Hate speech is real. Hate speech is a real thing. There are countries that have laws that will put you in jail for it. In Canada, you can say whatever you want, but you're responsible for what you say. And by God, if you're going to be willing to say something so awful that you hurt your neighbor, you hurt your friend, what kind of person are you? Canadians take personal responsibility for our behavior, or at least I like to think that we do. I know I do. I want my children to be respectful and be thoughtful. If they think something's hanky or weird, share that with me aside. You don't need to be going out on the internet and being a jerkwad. And that's actually what's happening a lot. And that's why I think we do need some protections, especially for the young people and the vulnerable online.
Thank you, Corey. You, Braden, you ready to go that side of the building? We got one more a question from that side of the building. Who would like to ask a question to the panel?
With the governments that appoint senators, judges across Canada, what checks and boundaries do those that have the right to speak up not being heard because of the way the laws are written? What do you think can be improved?
Thank you. Mary, you're up.
Whew. I'm just writing down your question. Thank you very much for it. It's a challenge. And sometimes when you're first time doing this, I don't necessarily have a really great answer to give you. So I'm going to go as close as I can, and I'd love to talk to you more about it later. And you can tell me specifically some examples where you're driving at so I can learn more from your question, and I appreciate it. When it comes to laws and checks and boundaries, one of the ones that I'm really interested in right now is the Expropriation Act and what's been used out with Site C and the communities in Hudson Hope. So there are folks there that in the beginning, depending on where their land was located, if they signed up right away, they would be able to stay for $1 and it would work out really great for them and they got paid out. But there's folks that are holding out, as is their right, to say no, and checks and balances. But now that they've waited a little bit longer because they wanted to try out the process and see if things changed, and now they've pulled out and they've said, well, no, now all the deals are off the table and you can pay, you'll get almost nothing, and we're going to expropriate your home. And I feel like and they're willing to take the original deal, but it's not on the table anymore. I feel like people who are willing to stand up to the system and fight are very often on the short end of the stick. And when they do stand up and fight, there's some kind of a repercussion or a buddy system that moves in and prevents them from being able to keep fighting. And it's maybe they'll freeze their bank account, or they'll change the way that their taxes are operated, or there's some other kind of sneaky side door that they're able to manipulate, because the folks that have the money are making the decisions, and the folks that need the money are the ones holding the bag right now. So I really appreciate your question, and I'd love to chat with you after this meeting as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. David, you're up next.
Can I get a repeat of the question?
Braden, can you help?
Maybe Mary will read it for us this time.
No.
I was going to ask the
I'm trying to read my scrawl. It's pretty terrible.
Yeah.
Could you
Braden, can we do that?
With the way the governments are now, that the judicial system with the courts and the judges that are there, they are going straightly by a word that is written in the law, and those that are trying to explain common sense do not have a chance to have their say, because they say, well, that's not pertinent to the question.
Okay.
This comes down to what I call a perversion of our laws in general, and it's been happening for some time as well. In fact, if you want to read, you can go look it up yourself. There's a book by a gentleman called Friedrich Bastiat from 1649 that he was talking about these exact same sort of things that we're experiencing today. We are facing there's no other way to put it, we're facing socialism and communism within our law system at this point in time already, and it's only going to get worse. This is because they are trying to take away things from the people who have and give to the people who have not. Now, in some societies, that is considered just and fair, but in a democratic society, that's not considered just and fair, to just take things away, as Mary was saying, appropriating things from one and just giving it to another. But they are doing this, and they're doing it more and more and more. There is really nothing that we can do at this point in time specifically except try to change those laws that are in place. And the laws are not restricted to federal laws, which deal with criminality mainly, but they're also being introduced and passed to do with things like the Legal Professions Act in BC, the Health Professions Act, the Emergency Services Act. These are all things that are affecting us, and we don't even realize, or most people do not even realize, how much they affect you today and how much they're going to affect you for years to come, especially when you have bills that are passed very, very quickly with maybe a third of them actually being read, or less than 10% in the case of the Legal Professions Act. It's disgusting, and we have to deal with it.
Thank you, David. Corey?
Thanks. Yeah, that was good, Dave. Communisms? How many? Conspiracies? Maybe some. You got to remember that our legal system, at least in Western Canada, is from Britain, right? That's where it came from. There's a long history there, and we can even go farther back. We could go back to the Golden Rule. He who has the gold makes the rules. That's what happens in this country too. Rich corporations are the ones that are making the rules and the regulations. Bob Zimmer, on my instance, in the House of Commons, decided that asbestos was not dangerous. He voted against it. He voted against protections, actually a redefinition of what asbestos was in there. Again, why? Why would you change? Why would you vote against a law that would protect a worker somewhere? Someone who's doing a renovation, chipping up a 6x6 tile in a house, it breaks. We know what happens. You get that crap in your lung, you're dead. Why would you vote against that? I don't know. But again, it goes to the situation that we have right now in this country, the golden rule. Those that have the gold make the rules. The NDP doesn't believe in that. Our leader's a lawyer. He actually has a job. He went to school. You should be voting for us, because one of the things we would like to do in this country is to make things fair for everybody, to ensure that you're not going to get sick when you go to work, and that law is there to protect you. We're going to ensure that there's fairness to everybody. There it is.
Thank you, Corey. Bob, you got 2 minutes. You ready?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, thank you. And I'll maybe just clarify. It's under the Liberal government propped up by the NDP is why we're in the current criminal situation that we're in. Let me give you some facts. As a result of the Liberals and the NDP, violent crime has skyrocketed by 50%, while gun crime is up 116%. Gang homicides have soared by 78%, and extortion and auto theft are up 357% and 46% respectively. Human trafficking has skyrocketed by 84%, and a shocking 85% of guns seized in Toronto are traced back to the U.S., fueling a rise in gun violence across the country. Meanwhile, fentanyl has killed more than 50,000 Canadians, more than died fighting for Canada in the Second World War. Have I said enough? Yeah. I mean, this is, and you talk about the checks and balances. The way the judiciary usually works, it looks at what the federal government, the direction it's going. We've seen so-called unsafe, I call it unsafe supply, because it's produced a whole bunch of unsafe drugs. It's flooded our streets, and you see the results. 50,000 Canadians have died. These are mums and dads, sons and daughters that have died as a result of this opioid crisis that's been supported by the NDP. I think the checks and balances are there. What we're looking at getting into government and changing the direction of where that government is going, and the judiciary, I'm sure will follow, but we have some work to do indeed. I'll say this one last part. We saw Bill C-21, this is back in a previous parliament, we saw what cracked down on law-abiding firearms owners. Within 2 days, The Liberal government brought in C-22. Guess what it did? It lessened the consequences for crimes like firearms-related crimes. Does that make sense to you? It doesn't to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Mary, you got a minute if you want to use it in regards to a rebuttal or a follow-up.
I'm good.
Okay,
Thanks.
okay. David, you're up.
I'm good.
Corey?
Are you guys scared now with those scary numbers, which are not true or accurate? Are you scared about that? Check with the RCMP detachment in Fort St. John and talk about crime numbers. Check with the RCMP detachment in Dawson Creek with those numbers. We've seen the numbers go down. You want to talk about fentanyl? You should be worried about the Americans down south, which are using fentanyl as a crisis to smack us with tariffs. Does Canada have a drug problem? Absolutely. And you have a member right over here who's had 10 years to get us a treatment center or to do something for our region, and they have not. I would like to welcome you all to a safe consumption site. That's what we're sitting in right now. This sometimes is a bar. How can you be in here? Aren't you ashamed? Safe consumption sites work. There's medical and science proof that they do, and what we need to be doing is treating addictions as a medical issue, not a moral issue.
Corey, thank you.
Thank you.
Bob, you got a minute to follow up?
Yeah, I'll agree with Corey on one thing, treatment. The one thing that the provincial NDP government, the federal NDP in cooperation with the federal Liberals has missed is treatment. They've supplied these drugs that are supposed to help addicts get off of drugs, but I actually have a great friend named Marshall Smith that has done some great work around treatment, and he said to me, and he's a recovering addict himself, he said, Bob, the last thing to help a drug addict is to give him more drugs or her more drugs. And that's why we're seeing the stats of 50,000 Canadians. And in BC, we have horrible records as well. You know, thousands of British Columbians every year dying of opioid overdoses because of the so-called unsafe supply that's flooding our streets. And we know that to be the case. And we have examples here. I have a nephew that lost his fiancée due to overdose. She was trying to get treatment, relapsed, and she's passed away. It has to stop.
Thank you, Bob. So one more question from this side of the room here. Who would like to ask a question to the panel? Derek?
My question for the panel is, we've talked about treatment centers, we've talked about the opioid crisis. Yeah. A lot of us here, I think, believe provincially it got out of control via the NDP government. So for the panel, when are we going to see affordable treatment centers for people with addictions? Because right now in Canada, like Grizz said, those who have the gold have the access. Well, most addicts don't have much gold.
Right.
First up, David. Are you ready for this? 2 minutes.
Well, I don't know when we're going to see actual treatment sites and come out more and more and more. For the most part, treatment sites are a health thing, and I hate to pass the buck, but unfortunately, the provincial governments get very, very mad at the federal government when they try and impinge on any of their rights or responsibilities. That being said, I would like to see it sooner than later, especially in some areas. There's some areas that I grew up in Vancouver, and honestly, I don't think I know anybody who would accept it if they know a lot of people in those areas who would even walk down there by themselves anymore. It's really, really bad. And it's getting that way in all the communities, all across Canada. I've been to many of them over the years, and it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. Even in Fort St. John, you see it happening here now as well. Dawson Creek, Prince George, all over the place. I hate it, and I really dislike it, What the PPC has suggested is that we would move out of certain tax areas and make those funds available for the provincial governments to address certain issues like those specific type of things.
Thank you, David. Corey, you're next. 2 minutes.
Here we go. You have a candidate up here who's been representing this riding for over 10 years. Where is the beef? Where is it? You know, you have the NDP in Ottawa, 25 members. 25 members of parliament sitting in there, and we can get you dental care. We can get you diabetes medicine. Even though we're fighting against two of the parties that have held power in this country since Confederation. Ask the fellow that was sitting in there for you. I can't honestly tell you when we're going to get one, but I've been advocating for one for years. Most addicts die alone. And they don't die alone because, hey man, doing my drugs alone is cool. They die alone because we as a society and as a group of people have decided to make it shameful that they have an addiction, that they feel judged that they have an addiction, that they need to keep it a secret. Safe consumption sites work. What we need to change is our perception of reality, and we need to stop telling people what they're doing is wrong. What we need to do is heal them. Bob's talking about like opioids, like, oh, you know, we're just going to slam 50 kilograms of opioids into somebody. That's what he's making it sound like. He's making it sound like you tripped over syringes when you came into this theater. You didn't. You have not done that. Have you seen a needle on the street? Yeah, probably. But that's not new. It's not something that we should be afraid of. It's something that we need to embrace and attack the problem for what it is, a medical problem. It's not a moral failing. I don't know if you guys remember this or not. Maybe you didn't know, but Saskatoon used to be a temperance colony. That meant that nobody was allowed to drink there. It was against the law. It's all over Canada had places like that. But guess what? Go out on a Friday night in Fort St. John. There's lots of safe consumption sites here. It's just that our morals have made it so that alcohol is okay and the other drugs are bad.
Thank you, Corey. Bob, you got 2 minutes. You ready?
Sure. So
Thank you.
I'll answer the question first, and maybe we'll talk about some of the issues. We're going to shift funding away from giving opioids to Canadians and shift that money and provide treatment spaces for 50,000 Canadians. I think that's a pretty good response to the treatment. And I'll ask, I'll leave it because this is, again, I guess, not the response time for you, Corey, but the NDP has been in power for a number of years provincially and has really been in power as the NDP Liberal government in Ottawa for a number of years. I don't see a whole lot of treatment centers across the country, Corey. Sad to say, but I see a whole bunch. I see 50,000 Canadians dead because of opioid overdoses. And so, Curtis, one thing that we found at Prince George that the RCMP did some really great work is that there was this accusation that, so what happens is somebody can be prescribed opioids if they're addicts. So they go to the drugstore and get opioids. Well, what happens is those opioids usually aren't strong enough, and they sell them. And then they buy more potent drugs with fentanyl, and that's how people are dying. A lot with mental health issues that should be treated for mental health, but instead are getting these drugs and dying from overdoses. And it was proven in Prince George, just down the street from my office, where they did surveillance, and they actually watched it happen. They watched the drugs coming out of the drugstore and get sold for money to buy harder drugs. It's real, despite what Corey is shaking his head, it's really happening in our riding.
Anecdotal.
And I would absolutely support, and if the NDP wants to put provincially, wants to work with us as a incoming federal government to get treatment centers across the province, absolutely we'll work together to do exactly that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Mary, you got 2 minutes.
I had my 2 minutes. Don't I have 1 minute now?
Yeah, that'd be
Oh, yeah, let's go back to the rebuttal.
nice. She's winning.
Mary, you got a
And
minute.
I really,
Mary, you got a minute. Thank you.
I'm like loving your drama teacher wife because I could watch you talk all day.
Oh, thanks.
That's fantastic.
Nice.
But on this one, I'm going to have to say with Bob talking to folks about the mental issues and how folks are unfortunately using the safer supply to finance their ability to find something else. But we need the 4 pillars to take care of people. We need to take care of them in harm reduction, and safe consumption does work. We need treatment, we need recovery. But how about the traffickers? Like, they're murdering us, and they're getting away with it. They need to be treated like the murderers they are, and we need to shut that down. Thank you. In BC, this is the 9-year anniversary of the opioid crisis being released. 15,000 British Columbians, and of that, disproportionately represented by Indigenous people. This is unacceptable, and you can participate in this moment if you like or not. But Bob, I'm so sorry to hear about your nephew.
His fiance.
His fiance. It's personal. These are people's children and our family members. It is so important that this be addressed. I'm going to invite you for a moment. How many of you have been touched by an opioid crisis death? That's more than I ever want to see in an audience this size. Thank you.
David, you got a minute?
I believe in treatment, but I don't believe that treatment for drug addiction has anywhere near the sustainability and worth as the treatment for the mental side of that addiction. That's it.
Thank you, David. Corey?
I'm not a doctor. It seems like a bunch of people up here think they are. They don't know what addiction is, obviously. And yes, Bob is right. Addicts have gone and they've sold their fentanyl or whatever their prescription is for more money, because most of the people there are not driving a $100,000 truck. They're living downtown Eastside Vancouver. They're living in Prince George on the street. So they do what they have to do to survive, which is sell their pills. It happens. It's not happening in a huge number, like you're painting it, like you're making it. That's not what's happening. You're a group there that wants to, how many sites did you want to build there? Was it 50,000?
55,000.
55,000 units. Do you think that's enough? I don't think that's enough. 10 lost
More than
years.
you're doing.
Where are those 50? Yeah, see, that's classic Bob.
There you go.
I'll say 50,000 and I'll just fade out the back real quick. No one will press me for that. You've been in power. You've been in the House. 25 NDP MPs getting you health care. He's been in there 10 years with hundreds of MPs. What are you seeing?
Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Corey. Bob?
Well, I'll just clarify who's been in power. It's been the NDP in cooperation with the Liberals that have been in power for the last 10 years. So you want to blame somebody? Blame the NDP and blame the Liberals. Just so specifically, we are going to crack down on drug trafficking. We will impose life sentences for anyone who is convicted of 5 or more counts of human trafficking. This is included in our crime fix. Importing or exporting 10 or more illegal firearms or fentanyl trafficking, because it's killing our kids. We need to do something about it. We need to do something about it now. Treatment is part of the answer to the problem. Again, Marshall Smith said, and he's a recovering addict himself, said, look, you have to treat these people with their addictions. Most of them are mental health, with challenges around mental health. Don't treat them with more drugs. Actually get them treatment and get them well again. Thanks.
Thank you, Bob.
Curtis? Can I just say one more thing? I just wanted to mention, because Corey mentioned about most of the deaths are the down and outs. The 2 people that I know who died from overdoses, neither one of them were down and outs. They both had nice homes, they both lived in nice neighborhoods, and they had nice families.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay, thank you, David. We got one last question from the crowd. We're going to work the left-hand side of the building. In the essence of time, just so you guys know, we're 9:05. We've been over this a little over 2 hours. Yep. Hold on, here he comes.
Okay, wrote something down here, so sound prepared. We recently saw an effort by the CRA to impose a higher assessment on capital gains without supporting legislation passed through Parliament. This is an example of a federal bureaucracy that clearly acts without the support of the elected officials or supporting legislation. What will your party do and propose to control the overreach of the unelected officials in federal bureaucracies throughout this country and their assault on Canadian citizens?
So Corey, you're up first, actually. You got
Sure.
2 minutes.
Sure. The NDP has been clear on this. If you are financially successful to the point where you're in the 1% in this country, you should pay. That financial expense that you have been able to pull out of our economy is because you've been able to exist in our economy. So that's what we would like to see. I would like to see Canadians that are so chicken and so cowardly that won't pay their fair share and put their money overseas. I'd love to see those guys thrown in jail. I pay my taxes. You could smirk all you want, but it's true. I pay my taxes. I'm a hardworking guy. I'm a tradesperson. Yet you can have board members from Loblaws or any of the other Conservative Party members that are up there in the corporations getting away with paying no taxes whatsoever. Why would we allow that? Why would we allow these people to take that value from our economy, from our resources, and hide it somewhere else? And not penalize them for that when we know who they are. You worry about the CRA and its oversight? The CRA should have more oversight. The CRA should be going up to people's houses and going, ding dong, pay the taxes you owe. This game here that a lot of well, my turn, sir. This game that we play here where it's like, I want to try to sneak out with as much money as I have, that's not responsible. That's not part of being a responsible Canadian. That's paying your fair share is what we're about. Paying your fair share and ensuring that we have services that everybody can take advantage of no matter what wealthy status they're at. That's what the NDP is about. If you guys want to do that, go work in the Caymans. Go with carbon tax Carney and set up tax havens for your rich buddies. Go do that, right? But the Canadians that I know that work hard, they pay for their fair share because they want a smart, healthy society. Thanks.
Thank you, Corey. Bob?
Yeah, and to be clear, that's not the question you asked, right? He went off on about CRA and they all need to be paying more taxes. So that's the NDP. Go pay more taxes.
Yep.
So the actual problem is that there was legislation before the House, and when the prorogation happened, the legislation was before, but it wasn't passed, right, about the capital gain. So the bureaucracy at the CRA went ahead and implemented it anyway. And then they finally got in the way and they finally, I believe, retracted that. But meanwhile, companies were worried about, they were actually being made to actually pay this capital gains. So obviously we have, in some cases, an out-of-control bureaucracy. And this is just speaks to the Liberal government that is very bureaucratic in nature, along with cooperation of the NDP, that supported them for the last how many years. That's why we've called them the NDP Liberals for a reason. It's because as opposition party that the NDP should be, they haven't. They voted almost in lockstep on every case for the Liberal government. So anyway, getting back to your question, we just think it's an out-of-control bureaucracy. It was reined in eventually by the Prime Minister, but not soon enough. And it shouldn't be able to do that, no. There's other sort of bureaucratic, I'll answer this question. I don't have much time, but I was on the Fisheries and Oceans Committee, and we had a person that was the lead person in the bureaucracy, and the minister was sitting right in front of me, but we all knew who was making the decisions. It was this deputy minister who's the lead bureaucrat. And I asked the minister directly to her face, I said, so who makes the decisions, the lead bureaucrat or you, minister? And she was offended by my question, but we're seeing this happen all the time, where the bureaucracy is really running the show under Liberals, under the NDP Liberals, but it just can't continue on. Thanks for the question.
Thank you, Bob. Mary?
Thank you. I haven't paid capital gains recently, and I didn't experience this, but I'm really glad you brought the question up. And I am personally experiencing the pains of process, that when you're trying to move through a process and then they say, well, we can do it anyways. Or they'll find you an opportunity to be able to, like what you were saying with the CRD, coming before there's legislation in place. That's the job of your MP. To be able to come to them and say, this is happening, it's totally wrong, and I need you to address it, and it sounds like Bob's on it, it's been retracted. But that is the work of an MP, and I'm really glad that you bring up things like this, because I didn't know. And there's gonna be lots of things I don't know. And it's up to you to help me learn. Like, keep teaching me about the things I don't know and what's working for you and what's not, and keep telling me, because there's so much, and I need all of your help to make sure that everything is gonna be done the way that works best for you, not for the party who's always been in charge. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. David?
The bureaucracy in Ottawa is really bad. It is so bad that we can't even imagine. I know other people who've been in Ottawa, and they've told me about some of the horror stories, shall we call them. Basically, I think the easiest way to put it would be like this. You have a new MP who goes into an office in Ottawa, and the first day they're in there, they're introduced to their staff. It could be a staff of 5, or it could be a staff of 10, who knows. And they all have assigned duties, and they're basically gatekeepers, and they're going to stop anyone who they've been told not to talk to you to stop, and they're going to allow everyone else to let them through. And this is the kind of situation that happens, and it is propagated throughout the entire government. And this is why we have these bureaucrats who have taken over and are taking over more and more and more. We need to significantly reduce the amount of bureaucrats that we have in Ottawa and across the country, actually, for that matter. When you look at approximately 5 million bureaucrats doing administrative work in this country alone, that's kind of ridiculous. That's at all levels of government everywhere. That is extremely ridiculous.
Thank you, David. Well, Corey, you want to use your 1 minute rebuttal?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, there you go.
I think I must have misheard your question. I think that's what happened there. Bureaucracy is bureaucracy. It is what it is. We need to have the people in the office to administer stuff. If we didn't, you'd eat a poisoned steak that had E. coli in it. If we didn't have inspectors to make sure that your underwear was stretched properly, they would be uncomfortable. Any of these jobs that we have are called bureaucracy. It's important. They're good paying jobs too, by the way. And I don't think we should be taking away a whole bunch of them. I think what we could do is trim some fat. I think that there are places where we definitely need bureaucracy, especially when we get into the health area, when we have to make sure that we do inspections for safety, that kind of stuff. With a Conservative government or the PPC, you could open a can of food if they cut all the inspectors, and you could be sick. All of these kinds of things need to be done, and that's part of what government does. Is there too many? Yeah, probably. But you know what? There's bigger problems, like tax cheats and people who take your money outside of this country. So there it is.
Okay, thank you, Corey. Bob, you got a minute?
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, and I just wanted to be very clear. There's good bureaucrats. I know there's some in the room even tonight that I've worked with and do their job extremely well. And I think we owe them our gratitude. One thing our office does often is we have constituents that come in with a passport issue or a CRA issue. Sorry, I have a cough. With CRA issues. And we bring their issues and ask those questions and represent them to CRA. And often we've had people helped. I still won't forget this one senior gentleman. He had owed $40,000. And it was because of this snowball effect, because he had missed this one particular issue. Well, we got them to go back to that one particular issue, realized it was a really small thing, and he came into our office in tears because it had been wiped clean. His debt had been paid, right? And it was just because we got involved. It was what an MP office should do, absolutely. And it's one of those things as a moment, as a member of parliament, it really makes your day enjoyable. So that's one thing we do. And,
Bob, thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Curtis.
Mary, you got a minute.
I just like hearing that the folks are doing their jobs. And thanks for getting on that, Bob.
Yeah.
Like, I've heard really great things about Bob, and I've heard great things about Grizz, and I've heard great things from David tonight, and I've had really great questions from all of you, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity. And I'm just really like full of happiness for this opportunity, and I wanted to express it to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Mary. David?
I don't really have too much to say in rebuttal, but I would also like to say thank you to everyone for showing up. Thank you to Brian, wherever he is now, and yourself, and Colleen as well for helping out tonight and trying to make everything run smooth.
Well, you're very welcome. But hey, I do have one written question in this last question, and this is not in regards to your final remarks. So you're going to have an opportunity to close, each of you. But there is a concluding question. We're not going to have a rebuttal on this concluding question. But we will give you 2 minutes to respond.
Whew, it's gonna
Are
be
you
hard.
ready? The concluding question, if there is time. So I guess there's time. We're going to do that. Colleen wrote that down so I wouldn't mess that up. And I was like, oh, God, here we go.
Okay, say it slowly so I
Okay.
can write it down.
Mary,
Yeah.
how would electing you ensure the needs of our riding are met? And what qualifies you to best be able to deliver, particularly in this time of political and economic uncertainty? We're going to start on the left and go our way right. Mary, you're up.
Thank you. I'm running for office because I have 2 children and I'm passionate about ensuring Indigenous voice is included in conversations on a nation-to-nation platform. I'm frustrated with rich, disconnected, entitled leadership and that has broken every Canadian climate promise that has been made, and I want to see something different for our future and something different for my children. If elected as MP, I promise to not embarrass you in the House of Commons, represent you with dignity and respect, and to hear your concerns and work tirelessly to find solutions by working directly with the ministers who can affect that change. I will consult with you on decisions, and I'll communicate back to you in person in whatever format works best for you. It might be open houses, or it might be brochures. It'll be whatever works best for you. I am an ally to my queer daughter and all LGBTQ2S community members. I will seek out those who need my work but do not have the capacity to find me themselves. Children in care, prisoners, pensioners, homeless, elderly, and people with unique and diverse abilities. I'm really glad that we have a beautiful democracy that allows us this opportunity to be able to run, even if it's only 3 days before the election runs and you're doom scrolling in sadness in bed, listening to your children play in the other room, and you come across a green call for candidates, and you fill out the application, and then just 3 short weeks later, here you are being able to talk to a group of people that I care about your future. And I want to hear what you have to say, and any one of you can go in this process. And so please support your candidates with kindness and respect, and please vote, because it is our democratic right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Corey, do you want me to repeat this question in regards to...
You probably could,
Okay.
since my hearing's not the best.
No, and sometimes I mess it up. How would electing you ensure the needs of your riding are met? And what qualifies you to best able to deliver, and particularly in this time of political and economic uncertainty?
Well, I think that you guys should vote for me because I'm a good guy, right? I've got some humility to me. I'm a hard worker. I understand the value of a dollar. I don't sit in the audience and smirk at candidates either. I make sure that I put my best foot forward because I'm a person that's brave. I'm up here and I'm looking to get this job. This is a job interview. And I guarantee you that every day that I'm in the House of Commons, I will not be sitting in the back playing Wordle. I will try to get some legislation passed for our riding at some point. Something has to happen in this riding. There has to be some kind of change. And even if I don't win this, I'm here to smash this concrete up. I'm here to plant some seeds. I've already spoken to young people in this riding that are talking about moving away because they don't like the opportunities that are being presented here by a member that doesn't represent them. LGBTQ. Someone who decides that they want to put their religious beliefs in front of the needs and members of the riding. Here's the other reason you should vote for me. I promise you that I will never block you on social media. I promise you right now that if you go to my Facebook page, my phone number's on there. Use it. Call me. ask me a question. Do it in person. I am the only candidate that I know of that is actually in the community forums answering questions and being harassed for just being an NDP person. I would ask you for the opportunity to represent this beautiful riding and to work my ass off every day for you guys. That's why you should vote for me.
Thank you, Corey. David?
I believe a major part of the problem we have in Canada today is stems from our top-down political party type of system, where most of the people at the top in those parties decide what's going to take place, when, where, and for how long. The PPC wants to change that to a bottom-up type of situation, where the people, you, have more say-so in what is going on and when it goes on. Many people call that populism. We just call it common sense because it literally is common sense. You as an individual should have more rights than us as an individual candidate. We are here to serve you, and that's what I'm promising to do is I'll serve you whatever way I can, in the best way I can. As Corey mentioned, I don't block people. I've been doing this now for 1.5 years already, and I have yet to block anybody. I listen to everybody. I've had people who've said some pretty bad things to me. Yet I listen and I just accept it and I say, oh, well, that's okay. We're all entitled to our own opinions and we're all entitled to think what we want to think. But the thing goes further than that. We have to do it for ourselves, not for me. It's for you because I'm the one who's going to be working for you. That's why you should vote for me.
Thank you, David. Bob, do you want me to repeat the question or are you good?
I think I'm good.
Okay.
And I want to thank you all for the privilege of being your member of parliament for the last number of years. Sorry, this cough's still coming back. But I was born in Dawson Creek to a hardworking mom and dad. My mom's sitting over there, who taught me hard work and ethics and how to treat people right and respect everybody. My dad was a carpenter and taught me the trade, but also just taught me to work hard. And I've been working hard at this job ever since, and it shows. I mean, even though we haven't been in government for the last 10 years, we represent you locally with issues like CRA. You come into our office if it's an immigration issue or passports or any issue really, we're going to be your representative and try and get that issue resolved. I'm the dad of 4 kids, and my wife is probably, I think she's still working tonight. But my son is sitting over there, David. He wants to be a teacher. He's going to stay locally. My daughter is a wannabe doctor. She's at UNBC and wants to stay in the area and be a doctor. And all that to say is the BC piece is my home. I was, again, born in Dawson Creek. I've been here with the exception of going to school and work. It's our home. And I was saying this to somebody as they were outside in the lobby, you know. It's one thing, somebody that's just moved back over many years, Miss Kirkpatrick, I'm not sure where she's at, but I'd say it's something when you travel away enough, you really appreciate coming home. And you can only really appreciate that if you're not home sometimes. You realize how good it is here. But I can tell you, our leader, Pierre Poilievre, believes in our country and he believes in you as Canadians and believes that we can do better. We can be a prosperous nation that really benefits everybody and all Canadians. And in order for that to really be fully realized, we need to be a majority government. And my time is up, but April 28th, vote Conservative so we can form that majority Conservative government. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Now, that was the final question, but we are going to allow you closing remarks, and you guys have the ability to do that. Each of you are going to have 2 minutes. We're actually going to go, David, you're first. Are you okay with that? Do you want to, yep,
Sure.
follow through with closing remarks?
Sure. I have a few remarks that I prepared. I don't know if I'll use them all. Basically, I really want to thank everyone for showing up again. I believe in Canada and I believe in the beliefs and values of Canadians, and I believe in the beliefs and values that started this country many, many years ago. Having said that, I also, as I said earlier, do not believe in party politics, and that's one of the reasons why I'm with the PPC. As an individual and as a candidate who's asking for your support and vote, I believe that elected officials are responsible to you. And I believe that we need to have a smaller, less intrusive government, and I believe that laws should apply to everyone in the country. People are generally fluid in their thoughts and attitudes about many things, and we disagree and agree at many different times over many things. And to me, that's just part of life. To me, living my life my way means more than almost anything else. We have opposition from all sides all the times, especially in our positions at this point now where we're candidates. Bob, even though I don't agree with everything he's done or for how long he's been doing it, I do agree that he's been very brave, and it's very important because none of you actually know the type of things that we go through, even just as candidates, as Corey mentioned, getting threatened and so on. Myself, I'm what you call a small C conservative person. I generally buy the same type of clothes, same type of brands, and I do that, and I've done it for years and years and years. It's unsettling to me when to go out and try and change everything all at once. But unfortunately, I feel that many of the problems that we have in this country today need to be changed very quickly.
Thank you, David. There was no order for this, so Bob, I want you to work on your closing remarks, or
Sure.
You've got 2 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have much more to add to what we just, excuse me again, talked about. But I think what our leader, I'll maybe, how many have been to a Pierre Poilievre rally? Okay, some of you have. I've introduced him on a number of occasions, and it's a little bit of an interesting thing. There's a lot of people there, and it's a bit nerve-wracking, but I've seen the thousands of people that come into that room, and they're not party members. I remember distinctly one time in Prince Rupert, I met with two former NDP members that came up to me. They wanted to tell me they were former NDP members and they were voting for us this election because Pierre was offering them hope and a possibility of change in the future, so we could see the Canada get to the prosperous nation that it once was and see our country prosperous once again. And I'll maybe close with this. I've heard it many times. They go, Bob, you've got this made, and you win, and it's what's the point? I never see it that way. I always see it as I haven't won the election until we've won it, and that counts on every single one of you going in and filling out a ballot, really for any party up here, the democratic process. But until we've won, we haven't. And that's why we continue to work hard. We put up signs. People, they tell me, Bob, why do you put up so many signs? Or why do you work so hard? Because, again, I've always seen it that way, is that we need to work to earn your respect and earn your vote. And the work just doesn't start when the election happens, but it starts really, day one after a new mandate. That's when the work begins all over again, and we start to get after it. We're asking you to help us form a majority Conservative government this time. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. Our country needs to get back on track. And that really relies on every single one of you going up to that ballot box and putting in your ballot. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Corey, you ready for your 2-minute closing?
You sure? Okay, let's do it. I echo the sentiments of the candidates up here. Thank you so much for taking time out of your night to come out and listen to us speak and present our ideas. I appreciate that. I think that's awesome, and I respect you, and I'm hoping that you will keep an open mind. Bob has a lot of signs. Bob has a lot of money. Bob has some organization. You're not going to see that from us, but I sure hope that you can give us your attention. Because we do have good ideas, and I think that Bob should be listening to those ideas here too, because if he does get reelected, he represents all of us here. And I know he takes the responsibility. I have no personal animosity to Bob. I think Bob's a good guy and he tries his best. I do, honestly. But I want to give everybody in this riding an opportunity to vote the way that they want to. That's why when I made my first video about us not having a Liberal candidate here and inviting anybody that would vote Liberal to vote for the NDP, because we have a hug for you, it's waiting here, because maybe you can't vote Conservative. I didn't know that we have a Liberal candidate until after that. Still, again, this is a job interview, and I would like your votes. We see that that candidate is not here. And if you feel comfortable, you'll be welcome voting NDP in this riding, and I will do my best to represent you. If you're Conservative, you can vote Conservative, that's fine. That's part of the cool part of this country. Know, though, that if I win, I will represent you as well to the best of my ability. That's a promise I give you right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Mary, 2 minutes.
Whew. The adoption of Bill C-12 and the net zero emissions decision to reach a net zero emissions destination by 2050 is now law. This groundbreaking new era of accountability after decades of broken climate promises on the international stage means that we have the policies we need for deep emission cuts as a matter of ecosystem and human survival. Your political identity should not outweigh your membership to the human species. Canada is one of the top 10 emitters of greenhouse gases. 37% of warm season heat-related deaths can be attributed to human-caused climate change. 67% of Canadians agree that federal government should make climate actions and protecting nature a priority. My sources for these comments that I've just shared for you come from Canada's Climate Action Network, an organization of 180 Canadian climate-interested groups. My favorite group name is GASP, Grand Others, Acting to Save the Planet. The UN has given the world until 2030 to get ahead of global warming. That's this election. Make sure that your vote counts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary. Well, I just looked at my clock. It's 9:32, I think. That kind of wraps it up. And before I thank our candidates for coming tonight, we have a whole bunch of thank yous to do in regards to making this happen. This doesn't happen without a whole bunch of volunteers and support within our local community. So just bear with me here. Moose Media, Adam and Frankie, thank you. The graphics man, Tyson, to making this happen, that big wonderful poster. The Frontier Law, Colleen, keeping me in line. Thank you, Colleen. Eagle Vision, Ben, back in the back. The Fort St. John Systems with Skylar, making sure that the mic worked. The Lido Theatre, Brian, what an awesome venue to host this. Thank you, Brian. The Chamber of Commerce, who's always been there for us within our community. And here, as far as I'm concerned, the Fort St. John Petroleum Association for allowing this to happen. It's important. And we have to have this opportunity to hear, listen. Thank you. Advanced voting, it starts this weekend, the 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st. Get to know where it is. Do it. April 28th is actually the voting day. If we took the time to come here today, I would think you would take the time to go and vote. As far as you guys, Bob, David, Corey, and Mary, thank you very much for coming tonight. It was awesome.
Thanks Curtis, too.
Yeah. Thank you. That wraps it up. Thank you very much for coming. Have a great night, and thank you for your patience. Thank you.